Hello and welcome back to the World Sports Car Challenge. I'm your host over the line, or Matthew, and I am one of the admins here for the series. And today you are watching round 8 of the championship at a very wet Interlagos circuit, a track with many names and many faces over the years, but one thing is guaranteed, and that is good close racing. As usual this evening you're going to witness LMP2 and GT3 cars battle it out for a 3-hour event at what must be one of the most iconic circuits in motorsport. Usually we would see Formula 1 cars screaming across the tarmac here, but for this event we're going to bring to the table a whole different type of motorsport racing. And what I mean by that is endurance racing. This has to be one of the most narrow circuits or midsection parts of the track in the entire world of motorsport, and that is going to bring a hell of a lot of difficulties for these teams this evening when they try to navigate through the traffic and take victory here. Right now the teams are competing the last few laps in qualifying with 15 minutes remaining, but before we go into that, let's have a look back at round 7, which was the 3 hours of Portimao, and have a look at the standings there. So in LMP2, and with a further victory at Portimao 1 fortnight ago, was the Max Grip Endurance team. 150 points for these guys after their 6th win of the season. Sadly they got a DNF at Sebring. And then close behind is Rapid Racing. 3rd place at Portimao 2 weeks ago, and a win at Sebring's a month ago means that they are 129 points on their leaderboard. Fair Play Sim Racing get promoted after a good result with 5th place at Portimao, and they have moved up in with 90 points, and they round out the podium for the LMP2 class. Hansa Racing, the number 69 car, sadly did not show for last round at Portimao, but they have 86 points on the board. Close behind is the 55 Exile Motorsport car with 84 points. Sadly they got disqualified at Portimao due to driver issues. But real life does come first. Kyushu Motorsport with 82 points on the board, and then Iceberg Racing, 7th place 2 weeks ago, which means that they come into this round with 68 points. Spirit Sim Racing, the number 40 car, with 52, and they are tied with the Positive Energy Racing team, who got 6th place 2 weeks ago at Portimao, so they're both on 52 points. 54 Exile Motorsport car sadly didn't finish at Portimao or at Sebring, so they are low with 28 points. Black Hawk Racing, their first showing of the season at Portimao, joined the table with a 2nd place finish 2 weeks ago with 22 points. And then the last 2 teams on the board, Northern Light Racing and Hansa Racing, the 420 car, with 18 points each. BRT, Evolution Horse and Idus Motorsport have 0. So that is the LMP2 grid at the moment in terms of the points. Moving over to GT3, we have Team RSI still leading the way. Their only victory has been at Road Atlanta, but they've been able to get podium finishes, mostly 2nd place finishes for all of the other rounds. A 2nd place at Portimao means that they are 133 points on the board, ahead of with a few points ahead of the Poland Sim Racing car. The number 7, a 1st place victory for them at Portimao, means that they are 119 points, very close behind then to Team RSI as we go into the latter stages of this championship. Then we have Martini Racing. They had a 4th place finish at Portimao 2 weeks ago, and then not such a good finish at Sebring as well with 5th place. They are 109 points, and then those are the last 3 cars, or the only 3 cars to breach the 100 barrier in terms of points going forward in towards Daytona, which is the last round of the championship. Outside of the 100 points with 79 is the 36 Rebellion car. They did not show for Paul Ricard or Sebring, and then sadly they did not finish for Paul Ricard or Sebring, and sadly didn't show for Portimao 2 weeks ago. And then we have Flat Out Racing with 64 points. They didn't actually get a result for Portimao either. Scuderia Shell Racing, the 666 car, with 54 points. And then we have Calamity Motorsport with 46. Team Markham, the 100 car, with 36, and they are tied with the Exile Motorsport car. That is the Ferrari GT3, number 57. And then we have Titan Squad, and they are also tied with Eidos Motorsport, the 00 car. And then past that we have Pulse Simulation Racing. Sadly they're not here this evening because they did win at Sebring in class, and they have 25 points on the board. Team MSI AMBU Racing, with a 7th place finish for both Sebring and Portimao, line up with 24 points. Schubert Motorsport with 20 points. Exile Motorsport number 56 with 18. Reverse Gear Motorsport 16, and then Endurance Esports with 12, but they have rejoined the championship, so they actually have 0. So those are the current standings for the championship after 7 rounds, which was the 3 hours of Portimao. So it is very close up at the front. The top teams at this stage of the championship could break or make their title hopes. So these points here then are crucial if they want to be in a position to fight for the win in a few weeks' time as they head towards the next round. Right now, though, the teams are completing the last few laps of qualifying. 10 minutes remaining. And depending on what happens, of course, in the next 3 hours or so, and where they put their car on this grid, can depend on how the rest of the 3-hour event is going to fold out. What we're going to do now is go through the qualifying results as they stand and see where we are in terms of the positioning of both classes respectively. We have 21 cars in the session at the moment, all with at least 2 drivers minimum each, ready to take on the challenge of this evening's race. But leading the way with a time of 1:23.8 is Daniel Potter with the Max Grip Endurance team once again. The rain has seemed to have stopped since they joined at the start of qualifying, and you can see the dry racing line here is allowing the drivers to put down some fairly decent times on dry tyres as he comes down the inside of the LMP2 car there and into the last corner. But that is Daniel Potter leading the way in the LMP2 class as things stands with the 1:23.8 as I've just mentioned. And then in second place is Rapid Racing with Camille in that car. He's pulled over to the side of the circuit for some reason not known to myself, but he is doing lap times, and the best of which is a 1:24.3. Arcadius Atriba in the new 18 car, and that is a 1:24.1 for that team. This is a new entry for the season. He was in WM Motorsport with the Lamborghini, but they have rejoined in this particular car. Rick van der Velden in the 55 Exile Motorsport car, 1:24.172. So just a few tenths of a few seconds separating these teams here as we go into the latter stages of qualifying. And then Spirit Sim Racing, 1:24.4 for this team as he just comes across the line now. New team on the grid today as well, Tomats Luti, and that is the Speedy Mite racing car, the 84, and that is a 1:24.7 for these guys. And then close behind is Tony Jansen, 1:25.177 for that team. That is the second of the Exile Motorsport Lolas, and that is them all rounded up as well. And Alexander Meshkov in the Iceberg Racing team, number 58, 1:25.5 for that team. And then David Buckley in the Positive Energy car as well, 1:25.9. And then rounding out the LMP2s is Hansa Racing in the 69 car, 1:26.5. So that is the current standing for the LMP2s. That can change in the next 8 minutes or so, but that is their current positioning. And the reason I stuttered there is because I just saw the 36 bump into the barrier and then disappear from sight. So clearly some issues there for the number 36 Rebellion car exiting the pit lane. Into GT3 though, Gregos Bielat is leading the way for the number 7 BMW Polin Sim Racing team with a 1:29.6, and then close behind is Nuno Miguel Abreu in the Rebellion 36 car, the car we just saw have issues exiting pit lane, with a 1:29.6. Then we have Victor Garrido, the Martini Racing car, 77 with a 1:30.4, and then Team RSI with a 1:30.498. So very close at the top, and they've got this brand new paint scheme for us this evening as we go into this session. Looks very nice. I'm not sure if I prefer the other one though with the black, but it still looks very pleasing to the eyes. That Bentley is extremely quick here in this series and the World Sports Car Challenge. Right behind though, those is the AMBU racing car with Louis Marino in the Ferrari 488 with a 1:30.6. And then we have Felipe Granado, and that is the Chevrolet Camaro team, a new entry for this season with a 1:30.9. Chris Gonzalez with the Ferrari 88, and that is the Exiled Motorsport car, 1:31.4 for those guys. And then we have Samuel Rovida with the Scuderia Shell Racing car with a 1:32.3. Idols Motorsport with Fabian Rude with a 1:33.6. And then last two positions with the AMBU racing car of Dean Jones behind the wheel with 1:34.7. and then Ellie Skinner in the Enduro 6 Esports with a 1:37.3. So those are the current standings for this qualifying session. But before we go racing and before the qualifying session ends, let's go on board with one of the cars and see what it's like from their perspective to go around the track of Interlagos. We're going to pick the Rapid Racing car because those guys have just gone for quickest. Rapid Racing have just gone into P1 with a 1:23.862. That is 0.03 of a second quicker compared to the time that Daniel Potter has put down. But we're going to go on board with him. He's just on his outlap now, and we'll get an idea of what it is like to go around this circuit. So picking the cockpit view as he goes into the mid-sector on his first outlap, and we'll wait for him to go into the last corner before we get... And Rick van der Velden just goes quickest with a 1:23.7. That means that number 55 is in the lead of this race so far, going into the end of qualifying. That is an amazing time, but it is extremely close and competitive compared to the others. That is 1/10 quicker compared to Rapid Racing's time. Have they got anything to respond with? Of course, the track is still drying with 5 minutes remaining, so this is going to be the time to push it. It goes very sideways, coming into the second sector, and sideways they go. Got to stay off those curves because they are still wet. So Rapid Racing's just coming over the brow of the hill now and onto their flying lap, trying to get that pole position as they have done before in push back the Exile Motorsport car off the front row, so into the first corner. And this is turns 1 and 2. This is the S's, or Ducena as they're called by track officials and around the world. Turn 3, you want to keep the car full throttle in the LMP2s, especially with this dry line, and just let the car run wise. Use all the tarmac as you begin your run down into turns 4. And that is turn 4, down into third gear. Nicely done braking there, and just keep the car full throttle and use all the tarmac, let it run wide as you come into sector 2. This is where the track begins to narrow and it becomes quite tricky, especially when that GT3 traffic is going to be presented as it brakes heavily down into turns 8, and this is where you have to be very careful with these cars because they have a lot of power, and of course at low speeds their aero packaging is not going to do much for them. So be interesting to see who can manage that speed and who can manage the tyre wear as we go into the race session. But that is the midsection complete. Down into turn 12 he goes, and into the second to last corner. They can run wide here on the right hand side in order to get a good run onto the main straight, and that is turn 13, and onto the back straight they go. It's a bit of curbing. What was that? That was a bit of signage there that the Rapid Racing car run over. No damage caused, I don't think, as he comes down into the last corner and across the line. That last lap will be a 1:23.779. It is not close enough. It is quicker, but just not enough to get him that far up onto the front row of the grid compared to his fellow LMP2 colleague. He still has one more go though. Of course the tyres will still be warming up at this stage at the end of that previous lap. So does he have enough in the bag, in reserve, in order to get this Rapid Racing car on to pole position? Let's go back to the normal shots now because we've been on board for an entire lap, and 2.5 minutes remaining left in qualifying as Nuno Miguel Brio takes the pole position in GT3. That is a 1:29.193. Amazing drive there from the Rebellion driver, and that demotes Gregor Spielat and the Poland Sim Racing team into second place. Still a good result for them, but they always get the pole position and they always like to be at the front row, so I'm sure they will be gutted at this stage of qualifying. I'm not sure they'll be able to respond unless they are out on the track themselves, which they are. So let's see if they can respond in any way, shape or form. But back to Rapid Racing, because these are the guys that are on a flying lap, and can they get onto the pole position once again and knock Rick van der Velden and that 55 Rebellion car, the Exile Motorsport car, off pole position. Here he comes across the line at full speed, and it is not enough. Last lap 1:25.170, and that must have been because the number 40 Spirit Sim Racing car impeded his lap, because that car wasn't there just a minute ago, and he's got enough time still to get one last lap in. This is his last chance to get the car onto the front row. Can he do it? Nicely done onto the brakes, very close on that white line there as he goes a bit wide onto the curbing. Bit slippery from the number 40 behind, but manages to hold it nicely. And the 13 enters Sector 2, full speed and commitment there, trying not to go very sideways, and he does. He goes very wide into the S's, or into the hairpins, and the mid sector keeps it on the grass, out of the way, tries to rejoin. Where's he going to come back onto the track? Right in front of one of the Exile Motorsport Lolas, but pulls over to the side to let them go. That was a bit of a shame that that happened. Just goes to show how much speed you carry going through that second sector in order to get that car stopped for those tight hairpins. It is not easy. It looks very balanced and poised in this footage as we go live. However, in reality, on board with that car, they are a handful to manage, especially on a drying Interlagos circuit. That is it then. The last lap will be announced as the cars go across the line one final time. We've only 17 seconds left. There we are. Last lap has been announced by the server. And then before we go racing, we will have a 5-minute warm-up, and then the 3 hours of Interlagos, round 8 of the World Sports Car Challenge, will go live. So stay tuned if you do want to see that happen. It's going to be a very interesting race as all 21 cars fight for the title and try to put their teams in a preferable position going towards Daytona. Just trying to go through the standings at the moment, see if anything has changed, and that is a negative. So as things stand then, at the end of qualifying, Rick van der Velden in the 55 has taken pole position for the Exile Motorsport Lola. And then close behind is Rapid Racing, followed by the Match Grip Endurance team, who are in third. So they're not going to be able to come back with anything. And then we have Arcadia Satriba, that is the new team for this series. And then, funnily enough, Spirit Sim Racing, the 40 car, with a 124.4. So the top 3 teams were able to break the 123 barriers, but past that, nobody is able to match their pace in qualifying. Race pace, though, is going to be different. And to finish off, Rick van der Velden just puts the nail in the coffin. 123.5 for the fastest lap for this session as he comes across the line. But he will not count because the timer did run out, and that does not count towards his position. But it was a faster lap by 0.2 seconds compared to the rest of the grid. So that is your current lineup for round 8 of the series before we go racing. And as I said just a minute ago, we are going to have a small break between the warm-up session and the live race itself. So come back in around 5 minutes or so after these adverts, and we will bring you the action live. Hello and welcome back to round 8 of the World Sports Car Challenge, the 3 hours of Interlagos, and you are just rejoining at the end of the 5-minute warm-up session that takes place after qualifying. And after this is complete, the 1 minute and 20 seconds, we will go live for the 3-hour event with LMP2s and GT3s. It has stopped raining here at Interlagos, as already mentioned. If you're just joining us, it was raining in qualifying, but it has now stopped, and you can see the dry lines emerging, which the drivers will be using to race on. However, we are expecting small showers through the 3-hour event, so that will definitely spice things up for the teams and the drivers going forward, and it makes a lot better racing for us to watch, provided that everyone can keep it on the circuit. I'd just like to mention before we go racing and live for this 3-hour event that we are also taking part in the 12 hours of Sebring on iRacing, and I'd just like to wish my team and colleagues the very best of luck for the remainder of the race. I believe the last time I spoke to them, they were running in 2nd and 1st place in the Daytona prototypes and the GT3 category. So hats off to them and best of luck, and I'm sure you'll all join me with that one. But back to the racing now, and of course all the times that are being posted here are irrelevant because they do not count towards anything, but this is definitely going to be an interesting event. All very sideways there by the Hansa Racing car going into the barriers. A bit too much on the curbing there, just sent him sideways. Of course they will be using slick tyres, but they have to be extremely careful not to go off the racing line, otherwise they will just simply glide off into the distance, because those things are not going to grip in these drying conditions. Interlagos then, a very challenging second. As I say that, it is starting to rain just now. There's spits of rain coming from the sky on the main pit exit as we enter the race itself. So that has definitely spiced things up before the race has even gone green. What are the teams going to do? Are they going to wait and see what happens on the dry tyres, or are they going to go straight out onto the wets, which could be disastrous or very good for them either way? Needs more Porsche advertising, says Dan. Oh, yeah, you would say that, wouldn't you? We have, of course, the iRacing. He's on about the iRacing teams, which recently released the LMP1 cars, the Porsche and the Audi. I've yet to drive them, so I'll be very interested in anyone who has driven them. Please let me know what they're like, because we are looking to get some Le Mans teams going, which will happen in August for both the categories. So if you are interested, if you do have iRacing and you like following what CFEG does, then feel free to give us a message, and you could be sitting in one of our very own painted and sponsored cars in August for the 24 Hours of Le Mans on iRacing. But that's an entirely different story. As the cars get underway, let's run through the lineup in case you have just joined us on the grid. And in pole position and leading the way in qualifying was Rick van der Velden. That was an amazing time by him, 0.2 seconds quicker than anyone else, so it is extremely close in terms of the front running teams, but he has snatched pole position away from Rapid Racing, who are in 2nd place with the number 13 car, with Camille in that seat, and he is in 2nd place. We're followed closely by the Max Grip Endurance team and Daniel Poter. The new team for this evening with Arcadius, the 18 car, and that is a Lola. They are in 4th. Spirit Sim Racing in 5th, and then we have the 84 with Thomas Luthi in the seat of that car in 6th, with Tony Jansen in the other Exile Motorsport car, 54 in 7th, Alexander Meshkov in the Iceberg Racing car in 8th, and then David Buckley in 9th with the Positive Energy car. Ricardo Beukman rounds out the LMP2s with Hansa Racing and the 69 car for them. So that is the LMP2 field, and then moving into GT3, the Rebellion 36 with Nuno Miguel Abreu is leading the way in class, and then close behind is Gregor Bulat in the number 7 Poland Sim Racing car. Louis Marino in the AMB Racing 61 Ferrari GT3 is in 3rd, and then in 4th in class is the Martini Racing Chevrolet Camaro. Team RSI got demoted into 5th place in class at the end of qualifying. Daniel Vidimari will always move forward compared to it, and the skies have opened as we've just come into the mid-sector here, so clearly the clouds are starting to descend over the track of Interlagos, and that is definitely going to cause a few issues for the teams going into the green here in a few moments' time. Carrying on with the lineup though, Chris Gonzalez in the 57 Ferrari GT3, that is 6th in class, Felipe Granado 6th in class, Samuel Rovida 7th in class, Fabian Rude 8th in class, and then 9 and 10 with Elise Skinner and Dean Joes. So that is the current lineup as the safety car just navigates its way around the last remaining corners here going into Sector 3. And I wonder how many of these teams are going to come straight into the pit lane. They must have taken slick tyres before they decided to grid, because it was not raining before they went off the line. But obviously that has certainly changed, and it is now. How long is this rain going to last? And is it worth them actually coming into the pits is the question. Very tense moment there for Rick van der Velden. They have to wait until they get underneath the banner before they are allowed to go racing. And the safety car will pull in any moment now. The cars line up, double grid, and one of the cars has already decided to come into the pit lane, and we are... wait for it, racing, and they're all off. Rick van der Velden gets off to a good start, holding the outside line, which is going to be the driest, but Rapid Racing down on the inside, and then Daniel Poter tries it as well. He's down on the inside. Rick van der Velden gets pushed back into third, holds the inside line for turn 2, and then they squiggle their way and maintain the grip on those tyres as they go into turns 3. Good start there by Daniel Poter and Rapid Racing. Rick van der Velden gets demoted into third in class. Going over to GT3 though, as we go into the third sector, or sorry, turn 3, Nuno Miguel Abreu is holding the lead against all of the other GT3 cars. It doesn't seem to be many position changes there. Exile Motorsport, the number 54 car, is just coming out of the pits now, and that is got to be a change of tyres from slicks to wets. However, Rapid Racing and Camille are leading the way, not by much, just a few tenths of a second as he enters Sector 2 for the first time. Arcadius Atriba also close behind and not letting the front-running teams go in these wet conditions. We knew Brazil was going to give us some good weather and some good action, and it has not let us down. Who can handle and who can hang on the longest before they have to go into the pits? And for those teams that chose wets, well done to you, because you have timed that perfectly for the start of this race. A bit of a gap between Arcadius Atriba in the 18 Lola and the rest of the front-running teams as they come down to the end of lap 1. Rapid Racing still lead the way as they come across the line, 134.9 with the fastest lap there, and then Daniel Poter is just slightly a bit behind as they enter and there's a contact between the 55 and the 285 as they come into turn 1 and entering 2. The 55 is stationary as the 285 tries to get back underway, and these wet conditions there, you can see them struggling with those tyres. That is not good news for those front running teams, and the 13 car is left all alone out front with just 3 minutes into this event. That has to be a very satisfying feeling for that team. And the 18 is off as well. These teams are clearly on slick tyres. There's no way that they would have survived that corner or would have crashed like that in that corner if they did not take the correct tyre type. So that is a further off by Arcadius Atriba. Be very careful on these damaged conditions. And you've got a lot of cars now coming into the pit lane. That is not what we want to see. Okay, so we have David Buckley in the pits, Alexander Meshkov in Iceberg Racing in the pits. So those are the only 3 teams that have actually gone into the pit lane at this moment in time. We have George Alves, the number 40 Spirit Sim Racing car. He has got to come into the pits because I do believe that he got damage as a result of hitting the number 18. Yes, that is correct. He's got no front ring on that Ligier. So he's got to be very careful coming into the last few remaining corners before he goes into the pit lane and gets a new front wing. There are yellow flags, and he's struggling even now as he tries to navigate his way around this wet Interlagos circuit. course, slick tyres and no aerodynamics is going to cause double the issues compared to what the other teams are experiencing. And we have a car that's turned around, and that is Fabian Ruud in the Ardos Motorsport car. He's now out on the field all alone as he struggles to get his car back underway. Doesn't seem to be much damage. I'm presuming that it was just literally a turnaround for them. And we have a lead change in GT3. Nuno Miguel Abreu in the 36 Rebellion car gives way to Gregos Bulat in the number 7 Poland Sim Racing car as they come across the line into lap 2. So bad news there for that Chevrolet Rebellion team. Not much gap between them though as they come into Sector 2. Let's have a look at the gaps in between each of these cars. Obviously the LMP2 field falling way down and in between all of these GT3s now after their change of tyres. And it looks like Rapid Racing may have been the only team that took the wets going into the start of this race, because they have a 7-second lead over Ricardo Boykman and the Hansa Racing 69 car. So good calls by these teams, because they are the only ones that are still in contention at this stage of the race. The Max Grip Endurance team also decided to take wets by the looks of things, because they are only 4 seconds behind Ricardo Boykman and the Hansa Racing car. So 1, 2, 3 LMP2 teams have taken wets at the start of this race, whereas the rest of the field have decided to take slicks. A wrong call then by most of the field, and as a result they have lost out on a lot of free time this evening. No issues for the GT3s on the... Oh no, Elise Skinner. Elise Skinner is a DNF. That is the Enduro 6 eSport car. What's happened there? He's in the garage. Further issues for that team. I don't think he has much luck wherever she goes, to be honest. We also have 2 other teams in the garage. That is Sammy Rovida changing over to new tyres, and Dean Joes in the AMB Racing 53 car. All going in for wet tyres. So, bad news for those guys. Ricardo Boykman takes the lead of the race with a lap time of 1:35.7 as they enter Sector 2. A very wide Exiled Motorsport car Ferrari goes in the background. And we have lost the leader, Camille, in the Rapid Racing car. He's decided to come in for a change of tyres as well. So they did not take slicks, which is what I had thought. They obviously were struggling in these conditions as well. So that is Camille and Rapid Racing, the number 13, into the pits for wet tyres. Ricardo Boykman and the 69 then lead the way with Daniel Potter and the Max Grip Endurance team in second place. 6.4 seconds separating these guys, but I do not know if they have come into the pits already. No. So up until P5, which is Victor Garrido, and that's the GT3s, we have not had any of them come into the pits yet. So whether or not they need to do so in order to change over to wets is yet to be seen. At this stage of the race though, Ricardo Boykman is slowly extending his lead as the Spirit number 40 Sim Racing car enters the pit lane. That is George Alves in charge of that car, and they are way down the order in both LMP2 and GT3, and that must be for further repairs because it has got a new front wing and it is still running. Just hope that they can keep that going. So the DNF that we did have, Elise Skinner, is now into the pits, so maybe that was connectivity issues, but that is no longer showing as a DNF on my screen, so fingers crossed that they can continue and complete this race. What a start to an event though. Only 8 minutes have surpassed, and already we've had teams fly all over the place in terms of pit strategy and changing tyres, and that has left the number 69 in a very good position indeed. They are extending their lead on Daniel Potter. Now 9 seconds between the 2 LMP2 cars, and then Nuno Miguel Abreu in that for the Chevrolet Camaro is back into the lead of GT3 as well, with Gregos Bulat 1.5 seconds behind. These conditions then proving rather difficult for these drivers to overcome, and resulting in a lot of changes in track position. The number 7 is Alexander Meshkov. He is around, and that is at the entry of turns 5. You've got to be very careful on the curbing on the outer line of this that corner, as it will decide to come around on you, as he's still struggling to get the car turned into turn 6 and 7. These wet conditions, we knew it was coming with Interlagos, and the last time we actually had rain at this kind of level was at the 6 Hours of Silverstone, and that was round 3 of the series. So the teams may have got a bit contempt and a bit relaxed in terms of what the weather's doing. Right, Elise Skinner is able to continue in the Chevrolet Camaro Enduro 6 eSports car. So connectivity issues there for the number 96 car driver, but is able to make his way back onto track. 2 laps down from the next competitive car, and that is Samuel Rovida in the 666 Ferrari. Ricardo Beutmann in the 69 car, though, is still extending his lead over the rest of the LMP2 field. It was a great manoeuvre and a great call for them to take slicks, or sorry, to take wet tyres for the start of this race, because they now have an advantage of 14 seconds, which is a great result for this team at this stage of the race. Of course, 2 hours and 50 minutes still remaining. It is a long road ahead, so anything can happen. And we're going 3 wide here into the last corner. That is awesome stuff to watch as they come over the start-finish line for lap 6 of this race. Ardos Motorsport is in the way of the leading LMP2 car. Looks down the inside, nicely done there to move out of the way and can see that position. And then we have the AMBU Racing Ferrari 488 is also in the way. It's looking very, very sideways there on the exit of turn 3. Easily done though for Ricardo Beutmann. Just navigates his way down the inside line and continues his charge into the lead of this race. Gregor Spula is in the pit lane. That is the number 7 Poland Sim Racing car. That is not what we was expecting to see. Perhaps a different change of tyres is needed for this car, this BMW M6, as he comes to a halt in the pit lane. Oh, he's missed his pit box. He's missed his pit box, and the jacks go up, and that is a change of tyres for the Poland Sim Racing team. And that means that Nuno Miguel Abrillo in the 36 Rebellion car is now out front and on his own. He has about 11 seconds between himself and the next competitive car, and that is Victor Garrido. That is the 77 Martini Racing car. So good showing for Camaro this day so far. They have the 1-2 position as far as manufacturer is concerned. So good showing for them. And in the commentary box we did have John Perry, but he's now just disappeared, so we was going to drag him in for a quick word, because they obviously the Hansa Racing team doing an amazing job leading the way of this race, even by 17 seconds now. And Rapid Racing have managed to reattach themselves onto the back of the LMP2 field with a 13-second gap to Daniel Pota at the moment. Start of lap 8 as he comes across the line. 267 kilometers an hour, still an amazing top speed for these conditions, and I'm surprised that the LMP2s and the GT3s can even get their cars stopped for turn 1 as he just enters the end of sector 1. Of course, if you do like the series, or if you're looking to join, then please do head over to our website, which is on the bottom of the screen, www.checkerflagendurance.com, and follow the links to the forum, and you can find all the series details and along with the remaining rounds and calendar on those links. So you can join still. The grid is full, but as you can see, a lot of the guys haven't attended for this evening's race, much of which I suspect is because of the 12 hours of Sebring on iRacing. But going forward, I'm sure the grid will begin to grow again, and we can have some awesome fights at the likes of Dubai, Spa and Daytona. The Rapid Racing car is closing extremely quickly to Daniel Potter. Now 5 seconds. What has happened to Daniel Potter? Because he is nowhere compared to... What was his last lap time? Let's have a look. 1:35.4. But Camille's last lap time was a 1:33.6. That's an entire second and a half, or 2 seconds. Daniel Potter's last lap there was a 1:42.6. So that is not the kind of pace that we was expecting at this stage of the race. Rapid Racing have just come across the line with a 1:35.5. So that is not the kind of pace that we're expecting. But an amazing job there by Camille and the Rapid Racing car to get those kind of lap times down. And that is Positive Energy Racing in the background. David Buckley goes very, very sideways and into the barrier at the exit of turns 5. Onto the grass he goes. That's not where you want to be, especially after it's been raining. And he just manages to get his car back onto the tarmac and get it back underway. Still looks fully intact from this perspective, but he's going to have a lot of grass on those tyres, and that means zero grip as he enters Sector 2. Yeah, he's struggling a lot as he's trying to navigate his way around Sector 2 there. Into turn 9 and 10 he goes. And that car does not seem very happy. We'll keep an eye on them to make sure that they don't, or to see if they do go back into the pit lane for repairs, but not a good position to be in at this stage of the race. They are P14 overall, and they're way, way, way behind the rest of the front-running LMP2 teams. And I keep missing these overtakes because Camille, in the Rapid Racing car, has just, whoa, big miss there by those two teams as he just navigated his way around the front bumper of David Buckley. And even Daniel Potter's coming into the pits. Daniel Potter in the Trait 5 are into the pit lane. And there's a car at the side of the road as well, and that is not good news for Chris Gonzalez. And that is the 57 Ferrari 888. He's just got to the end of their pit entry and has just retired to the garage. So what has happened there for that team? But Daniel Potter into the pit lane, that is not what we want to see. And that means that Rick van der Velden in the 55 car takes 3rd place in LMP2. There is a lot of action going on here at this stage of the race. We've only had 15 minutes elapse out of an entire 3 hours, and the race is showing, the rain is showing no signs of slowing down. So we could be in for a constant downpour as the 55 is very sideways there into turn 4. This is all about survival for this event. You have to be extremely careful what you're doing with these nasty conditions. The 40 goes very sideways as he enters Sector 2 as well. All the LMP2 cars have massive power units, but hardly any weight in those rear tyres, and that is causing a lot of them to get oversteer and frankly struggling to keep the cars on the grey stuff. There's another yellow flag. I think we're going to see a lot of that this evening as well, but we have had one DNF so far. The yellow flag has now disappeared, so whoever it was that had issues has now been able to get underway. But the only car not to finish so far is Chris Gonzalez in the number 57. Okay, so going through the order then, we'll run through from the top for you at this stage of the race. Hansa Racing lead the way with an 18-second gap, and that is all. And as I say that, he goes wide and almost hits the barrier at the exit of turns 6. And that has brought the gap down to 13.5 seconds to Rapid Racing in the number 13 car. They're just coming out of turns 5 now and are stuck behind the Ferrari 488 of AMBU Racing. Tucks it up the inside, nicely done, and both cars are able to continue. Got to be careful on the curbing on the outside line into the entry of turns 8 because it will come round and spin the car. If you have any questions about the series, then feel free to put a comment in the chat of either YouTube or Twitch. and I'll try and get back to you as quickly as I can. And of course, we are expecting some of the drivers to come into the commentary box with us as well, to have words about how their race is going. But as we continue through the order, it is Ricardo Beutmann in the Hansa Racing car, followed by Rapid Racing with 13.5 second gap. Rick van der Velden in the 55. That's a further 17 seconds behind as he just misses the 53 AMB Ferrari 488, and so does the number 666. And is that the number 61? No, that's the other car. Where is it? That is Dean Joes, very sideways. He's now been able to get off the racing line and is rejoining after a small adventure on the green grass on the side of the circuit. Luckily, no one got collected in that one. Amazing avoidance there from Rick van der Velden in the 55. I thought for sure he was going to make contact there with that driver. Right, we're going to bring in one of the drivers for the Hansa Racing car to see what happened at the start of this race to put them in such a good position. Jean-Pierre, welcome to the commentary box. You're live with us at the 3 Hours of Interlagos, and I'm just going to say, what an amazing start you guys have had at Hansa Racing. Did you guys start on wets?
Yes. This is the point. I think it's the best start we ever had in the series, because we had so much bad luck in the last races, but this race working well now, and yeah, this is quite good.
So what are the tactics going forward? You've got a 13-second gap to Rapid Racing, who are now on wet tyres as well, and you did have a very scary moment just a few laps ago where you nearly hit the barrier going into Sector 2. So how are the wet tyres handling in these current conditions?
They are quite good, but but Ricardo has some problems he has issues with his force feedback on the wheel, and yeah, but you do an amazing job, I would say, because these are not what he likes. He is not the driver who really likes to drive in the rain, but he is doing it really good. And yeah, the tactics are quite complicated now, because we don't know if it will stop, if it will more. What I heard is we will have more rain during the race. It will be heavier, but yeah, we will see.
Of course, this is all about survival now. A lot of the teams have had to enter the pits, and even now Daniel Potter is struggling on wet tyres in these conditions. And of course, Interlagos is a very tricky circuit as it is, especially with the very narrow and tight Sector 2 corners. How are you finding GT3s? Of course, with the packages that you guys have and a lot of power, the GT3s are a lot heavier than your cars. So how are you finding that as a challenge?
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard, especially in the second sector, like you said. Yeah, it's anytime critical, but yeah, we have to work with it.
Yeah, everyone's in the same boat, quite literally, at this in these conditions. It is a lot of rain on that circuit at the moment, and I'm sure you'll all be swimming in submarines soon. But yeah, guys, best of luck. You've got a nice, comfortable lead. I'll touch wood because I don't want to give you the curse of the commentator, but fingers crossed going ahead that you guys can continue to drive well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward for my stand because I love it. The rain. You will see.
Alright, best of luck. Take care.
Yeah, thanks. Bye bye.
So that was Jean-Pierre Heltler, and that is the second driver for the 69 Hansa Racing car. Of course, Ricardo Beutmann is in charge of that car, but right now, in front of your eyes, is the battle between Daniel Potter and Tony Jansen in the 54 Exile Motorsport car, and this is for P6 in LMP2. And with a team that we're used to seeing win races here in this series, is now in a very precarious position where he's being chased by a team that is very competitive in these conditions. Of course, this is going to help out a lot of the front-running teams, especially Rapid Racing and the 55 Exiled Motorsport car. If they can get a good result here, and if Daniel Potter continues to stay in his current position, which is further down the order, as he goes very sideways going into turn 4 there. And that means that Tony Jansen is promoted into 6th place. This rain is raining havoc on the LMP2 field and mixing up the order very nicely. Very good action to watch. And as things stand, if they can't score some very good points here at Interlagos, they may be in a very odd position going into the next round at Spa. And we just had a new fastest lap as well. That was Rick van der Velden, 1:33.5 by the Exiled Motorsport driver. And let's have a look at Team RSI, the current leaders of GT3. They are in 2nd place at the moment in class. This is the place where we're used to seeing them. Of course, they're very used to changing conditions. They love endurance racing, and they may not be the quickest team out on grid. However, what is a fact is that over the course of 3 hours or 6 hours or whatever the length of the race is, they can put in consistent, clean lap times compared to the rest of the competitors, and that is why we always see them in the position where they finish 2nd place, 3rd place. 1 victory at Road Atlanta for this team, and I'm sure we're going to see that happen again this evening if they can keep their current pace up. Of course, that is all well and good, but you still have to overcome the weather conditions as well. And the Bentley, I must say, the Bentley, out of all the GT3 cars that we've been watching, does look the most stable. We do have a battle on our hands for the lead of LMP2 as well, because Ricardo Boykman is being chased by Rapid Racing. 2.1 seconds between these two teams as they enter lap 15 of this race. And there's yellow flags out. Where is that? That is another retirement, I believe, because the number 20 car, that is Elise Skinner, she is in the pits once again. And we have Rick van der Velden on a very, very hot lap as well, at 1:35.8 by that team. So he is currently the quickest LMP2 on track, followed very closely by the Exiled 54 car. So the Lola is very comfortable here at this stage of the race. Half an hour has just elapsed in this event so far. And it looks like we may have a break in the clouds and a bit of sunshine on its way, because the track has lightened up, especially in Sector 1, and Speedy Mike Racing is at the side of the road. That is not good news for that team, and they are going to struggle to get that car back underway. That is tragic news for Speedy Mike Racing there, as they get the car back onto the road and are able to continue. Of course, the raining conditions very tricky, especially for the Nissan drivers, it appears. So then back to the lead of the race, because Rapid Racing are now leading. What has happened? Oh wow, we've had a big off with Hansa Racing. The 69 car has made contact with something, and there is no front wing on the car at all. It's just completely blank. So, curse of the commentator, once again, I wish them very good luck, and it appears that they have been cursed as a result. Now in 2nd place, and Rick van der Velden in the 55 takes that position as well. The two teams that could take victory away from Daniel Potter and the Max Grip Endurance team in terms of the championship points are now in 1st and 2nd place respectively. .8 seconds then between Rapid Racing and the 55 Exiled Motorsport car, with half an hour of this race finished. Also going strong is the Rebellion team, the number 36 Chevrolet Camaro. They have a lead of 21.9 seconds as they come across the line. 263 kilometers now, which isn't actually that much of a difference between the GT3s and the LMP2 cars. And David Buckley has just taken the position away from one of his LMP2 colleagues, and that is George Alves in the Spirit Sim racing car. He's currently in the pit lane, and that is at a position lost. And there goes Ricardo Beukman into the pit lane, very sideways there as he puts on the brakes to stop in time for his pit box. And the rain just is not stopping. We had a small break in the cloud, which made me think for a second that it may get a bit lighter, it might die off a bit, but that has not been the case. The rain is still pouring down onto the Interlagos circuit. Bit of a sideways moment there as well for the Rapid Racing car. He's now leading the way. 9.6 seconds, so Rick van der Velden still on a charge. Last lap times, 137.3 for Rapid Racing, 134.4 for Rick van der Velden. Rick van der Velden is extremely quick at this stage of the race, and in a few laps time he is going to be on the back of the 13 car and fighting for the lead in LMP2. This could be their first win of the season. So far they haven't had much luck. They usually run into issues and they always finish on the podium, provided they don't have any collisions. But could this be the weekend when Exarb Motorsport take their first victory of the season? I know that it's only half an hour into this race, but with their current pace, if this is what it's going to be like for the rest of the 2.5 hours, then they have a huge speed advantage over the rest of the LMP2 teams, and I wouldn't be surprised if they take victory here. Very sideways moment for the Rebellion car, the leading GT3, as he comes down into the S's and straight onto the long straight in towards Sector 2. I have to say that car looks extremely stable compared to all of the other LMP2s that are going around the track at the moment. And it clearly shows in his lap times as well. He is 2 seconds faster than Rapid Racing, although the gap between them is now 10.2 seconds. So have we seen a response from Camille and the 13 car, or has there been a mistake for the 55? Let's have a look through the order, see if we've got any battles on our hands, and we do, and that is between Daniel Vidimari, the championship leading GT3, and Grzegorz Bulat in the 7 Poland Sim racing car. 0.5 seconds between these two cars as we've got yellow flags out, and that is for Sector 1, and that is Ricardo Beukman and the Hansa racing car once again having issues. They said it was the best start they've ever had, and it looks like it's all gone wrong because they are now way down the order. Back to the fight in GT3 though. This is for second place in class. 0.7 seconds as they come onto the main straight and underneath the start finish line. Daniel Vidimari not going to yield that position very easily as he goes heavy onto the brakes as he enters turn 1. Off the track he goes and re-enters in a very bad position. The number 40 Spirit Sim racing car, and he's going to have to yield the position to the number 7 BMW because he has more speed. What's going to happen here? And that is it. The BMW number 7 is in front. That is third place then for Daniel Vidimari and Team RSI at this stage of the race. Still 0.3 seconds between both cars. Not much ground between them at all as they come down into Sector 2. Into turn 6. You can hear the cars very light on the throttle there by the drivers. They don't want to put too much power down into those rear wheels at all in these conditions. But it looks like Grzegorz Bulat has a bit more pace than the Bentley at this stage, because he is flying away, especially in this mid sector here. And there is a lot of banging and clanging going on up ahead. Where is that? Could that be the number 40? Usually that noise is accompanied by a massive collision, but it looks like most of the teams are still running. So that must just be a small glitch. But we'll continue to stay on board with the number 7 Poland Sim racing car. Okay, a bit of a gap now between Rfactor2 and the Bentley team, and we're going to move forward to the LMP2 battle now between Daniel Poter and Rfactor2. This is for third in class. Massive recovery drive there by the 285 as he comes down into lap 20. They still have a 55-second gap between the number 18 the 222 car and the 55 of Exile Motorsport. Of course, this team, new to the series, the reason it is the 222 car on your screens, but the number 18 skin pack is because they haven't submitted their custom skin yet, so they are taking a guest car for the time being. Down the inside there by Daniel Poter, nicely done as he comes into turn 6, just swoops down the inside and takes that position away, and that is third in class for the 285 team. Obviously his ears must have been burning, because the last time we saw this driver he was in 7th in class without any hopes of getting back onto the podium. But clearly there's been a lot of action take place while we was watching the GT3 battle take place, and been able to move up the order. Rapid Racing is able to hold back the 55 at this stage of the race as well. It seems that the times are finally starting to stabilise. 1:35.8 for the Rapid Racing car and 1:35.7 for the 55 Exile Motorsport car. So both on equal times then. Not much ground to be gained or lost as far as no mistakes are made. This is going to be a test of concentration and hitting those apex corner apexes perfectly over the next hour or so until this rain decides what it's going to do. Most of the cars though have been able to attach themselves onto the back of their respective classes. We have 3 LMP2s that are still in the mix with the GT3s, and that is for position, and that is the number 40, 34 and 84 cars. However, the rest of the LMP2s are pretty much in position. Let's go back to the GT3 battle, because Rfactor2 is still 0.8 seconds in front of Daniel Vidimari in that Bentley car. And we've had a second DNF as well, and that is Elise Skinner in the 96 Enduro 6 eSport car. So that is our second non-finisher for today. 19 cars are still left going around the circuit, and with 2 hours and 23 minutes remaining. .2 seconds between the number 7 and the number 23 as he comes to the end of this lap. There is another close battle, of course, between Daniel Poter and Rfactor2. That is 0.6 seconds between these two teams. And is Daniel Poter coming into the pit lane? No, he's not. He's just navigating his way around the Chevrolet Camaro there as he comes up onto the back of this GT3 battle between the 23 and the number 7. Are they going to have any influence over this fight at this stage of the race as he comes down into turns 1 and 2? You can see the 2 GT3 cars there in front of him, and this is a fight for position in both classes for second and third place. Nicely navigating his way around the Bentley GT3 car without any issues there. As he comes down into turn 4, goes very wide. As a result, isn't able to brake fast enough to make the corner there after he took away the position. Still in third place though, luckily, because Arkadiusz Triba was making his way around, and there's a very sideways LMP2 car, and that means that Tony Jansen in the 54 is able to make his way into position, and that means that Arkadiusz Triba gets demoted into P5 in class. Right, back onto Daniel Poter again, because he still needs to make his way past the number 7 BMW, and he does so down the inside there at this very tight and twisty midsection. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the GT3 cars are quicker at that part of the circuit compared to their LMP2 counterparts, because they are heavier, and of course being rear wheel driven, it can be an advantage to have a heavier car in these current conditions. 54 navigates his way around as well, no issues there. He still needs to take on the number 7 BMW, goes down the inside, nicely done there. Nice easy overtake. Doesn't impede his lap times too much either. As he breaks down for turn 1, separated by 2.8 seconds between the 54 and the 285. And then Arkadiusz Triba still behind the number 7 BMW as well. Can he get the job done before he comes into Sector 2? Looks like that's a no, which I'm a bit surprised at. But of course, staying off the racing line is very tricky. It's going to be a lot of standing water and a non-racing line at that part of the circuit. And he goes onto the grass. He goes onto the grass coming into turn 7. Very sideways there. Massive mistake by the LMP2 driver. Able to re-enter the track nicely, and Team RSI have to take evasive action in order to avoid the back bumper, and that is not what they want to do at this stage of the race. The flash of the headlights there, probably in frustration, as he has to re-enter Sector 2 using a wide line. But he is back in front of the LMP2 car, and that means all that work is going to have to be done again. And in the background we have Rapid Racing as well. The 13 car is about to lap its LMP2 colleagues, and that means that only the top 3 LMP2 cars are on the lead lap. Oh, sorry, the top 4 LMP2 cars will be on the lead lap, not 3. Takes away the position from Arkadiusz in the 18. And down the inside of the Bentley GT3, and maintains the lead. 7.5 seconds. Did cost him a small portion of time compared to Rick van der Velde in the 55, and the times are starting to get slightly faster as well. Last lap there by the teams was 1:33.5. So the rain is slowly beginning to slow down. Tony Jansen has closed the gap as well to Max Grip Endurance Team. 0.4 seconds between the two cars on lap 25 of this race. 2 hours and 18 minutes remaining. So Daniel Poter, it's clear to say that he is struggling in these current conditions, and the Exile Motorsport cars are a bit more suitable and relaxed in the rain. Coming across the brow of the hill into the last corner they go. He's going to have the slipstream as he comes into the end of the lap. And the 36 goes very sideways, just misses and avoids. I don't know how he held that. How did he stop that from sliding across the front of the 54 car? I will never know. Amazing skill there by Nuno Miguel Abreu in the 36 to keep that Chevrolet Camaro in order. And Daniel Poter goes very sideways as he enters turn 1. Tony Jansen looking for an opportunity to overtake at this stage of the race. 0.3 seconds is separating them as they come into lap 26. There's a lot of traffic on this small stretch of tarmac as they come into turns 5 once again. And the Ferraris just get out of the way. You also have George Alves in the 40 Spirits in Racing car. That is a laps down car in P12 at the moment. He goes onto the grass and gets out of the way of this battle that's ensuing in front of us. Tony Jansen very sideways there into the mid-sector. Has managed to get a bit of a breathing space now. 1.8 seconds and Daniel Potter loses it going into turns 9 and 10. That is further bad news for the Max Grip Endurance team, and Tony Jansen makes his way into the podium position of P3. As is 7 seconds that has cost Daniel Potter and his team. And that means that they are off the podium positions for LMP2. Next car down, though, is Alexander Meshkov. This car has had issues as well, the 58, and as I just go onto that screen, he has spun out as well. All these LMP2 cars are really struggling in these conditions. I keep saying that, but the more the race goes on, it looks like the rain just continues to pour down and is even getting heavier in certain places. Back to the lead of the race though, Rapid Racing, last lap of a 1:37.3. It looks like the rain has decided to come down and return with a bit of revenge, because the lap times are beginning to get slower and slower as we end the first hour of this race. 15 minutes to go before we go through the first stage of pit stops, and the cars will need to come in for some more fuel and possibly a change of tyres. There's no signs of this rain slowing down at this stage of the race though. 4.1 seconds between the two leading LMP2s though. Rick van der Velden has done an amazing job of getting that car into a position where he could maybe take the lead of this race within the next 15 minutes or so. 1:34.8 was the last lap compared to Rapid Racing's 1:37.3. If he can keep that pace up, get past this GT3 traffic with ease, then he could save the team a lot of time in terms of traffic management. Of course, Rapid Racing have already gone through and passed all of these GT3s, but has cost them quite a bit of time as a result. No issues for the 55 though as he enters the back of the AMBU 61 car on the back straight. That's going to be a nice easy job for him as he comes down the back straight past both the cars. There's the leading GT3 with Nuno Miguel Abreu in that Chevrolet Camaro. No twitching this time from that car as he was very sideways the previous lap before, and across the line they go. Maximum speed 258 kilometers an hour as they come across the line into lap 28 of this race. Nicely done then there by Rick van der Velden. 7.2 seconds between himself and Camille in the Rapid Racing car. So he did lose a fair bit of time to the leading LMP2 car, but not as much as I was expecting him to. But I guess that was slightly due to the fact that he got most of the GT3s on the back straight, which is good for him. The amount of spray that is coming off the back of these cars as they enter Sector 2. It's not so bad when you go into Sector 1, but when they enter the midsection of this circuit, it is absolutely pouring down with rain. And if you want the rain to not touch a certain part of Interlagos, it is the midsection, to be honest, because it is just horrible to drive on in dry conditions. It's a very tight and twisty circuit, and a massive challenge to navigate at the best of times, never mind when you've got waves of water and rain coming down onto it as well. The Speedy Mike car gets out of the way for the 55 as well. Nicely done there. And I'm just looking down the order now in terms of the gaps and the live timing. There's not really many battles going on at this stage of the race. 6 seconds or 5 seconds is the most amount of time that I can see on the grid at the moment between cars. Of course, that's all going to change within 12 minutes or so, because we are expecting some of the teams to come into the pits, and that has just been started by the Speedy Mike car. That is the 84, and he's decided that it's time for some new tyres and some more fuel as well. So this team, their first showing of the season, probably not the best time to join because of the weather conditions, but 17th overall. They are at the bottom of the LMP2 field but that does not mean that they cannot move forward. Of course, in endurance racing, if there's any chance of moving forward, this is the motorsport or the type of motorsport that you can do it in. You can have an absolutely rubbish start and go way down the order, but if you play your cards right, you can gain some positions back. So that is it. Tomats stays in the car for the team. Of course, he's going to be doing the next hour or so, which means that he will need to do a driver change the next time he comes in. So for those of you that don't watch the series or you're new to the live stream, the teams have to do an hour's minimum driving time each. They do have teams of 2 to 3 drivers, and 2 drivers is the minimum requirement for them to complete the race. If they don't have 2 drivers compete, then they are disqualified from the points. And once a driver does get into the car, over the course of the race, whether it be 3 hours or 6 hours, they need to have a complete driving time of 1 hour with a 5-minute window for pit stops. Of course, that should work quite nicely because the LMP2s and the GT3s do pretty much come in on the hour in terms of their fuel consumption. Although I'm sure the LMP2s are going to go further than the hours because they will have turned their power units down to prevent any unnecessary wheel spin from their LMP2 cars. And we do have one of the LMP2 drivers in the commentary box with us at the moment. He's just waiting in, and I'm just trying to find the 222 car at the moment. Right, well, let's drag him in and have a word with him. Arcadis Tribo, welcome to the commentary box. It's been a bit of an odd start for you guys. You were in a position where you was in 3rd in class, but you've since moved down the order. Tell us from your perspective how the race has been going.
We didn't expect to be that high in the grid. I expect P7, P6, but P4. Oh, we did a good start. We were on P2, but I make a mistake and spin. I think one of the prototype hit me, but I didn't get any damage, and I was able to continue. But I have a strange lags, and it's quite challenging to overtake GT3 with these lags, and I decided to pit, and now Camel is driving, and now I try to fix that and get back to the car for the last hour.
Right, okay, you're very competitive in terms of the LMP2 field. You're currently running 7th in class after your pit stop. Are you hoping for a podium finish here this evening? Is that achievable for you guys?
The minimum target was to finish the race ahead of GT3. Yeah, but now, without these problems, I think we would be on the podium right now. But the goal is still to finish the race ahead of GT3 cars.
Right, okay then, so setting your hopes low just in case anything goes wrong. I know how you feel with that one. Most of the times with endurance racing, I feel that the best thing you can wish for is the checkered flag. And anything that comes with it is just a bonus. So I completely understand why you're saying what you're saying there.
When I saw this weather, I was praying to this hour to just end and to pit. It's horrible to drive in this condition.
Of course, some of the team, well, when it comes to rain, some people absolutely hate it. I'm one of them. But some people absolutely excel in it, and I think one of the teams that are doing that is Rapid Racing and the 55 as well. They are really putting in a strong performance. So you just got to hang in there and hope for the best, as you say.
Yeah, thanks. We'll try.
You're going to try. Yeah, well, best of luck. We'll see you in the car for the last hour, you say.
Okay, goodbye.
Alright, thanks very much, bud. So that was Rfactor2 in the 18, or one of the drivers for the number 18 car. And he's just got out of the vehicle due to connection issues, and he's yielded it over to Camille, who's now in charge of that car. P7 in class at the moment for this team, and that is before the rest of the cars come in for their pit stops. So interesting there. Back to the lead of LMP2 though, because Rapid Racing is still charging away. 4.2 seconds between themselves and the 55, which has not really changed from the last time that we looked at them. Oh wow, okay, so the Rapid Racing have just taken over Daniel Poter in the 285 though. I had never thought that I would say this in this entire season, but the 285 leading LMP2 car in terms of the championship points has just been lapped by Rapid Racing. Now let's just sink in for a small moment there. The leading LMP2 car is a lap down compared to the rest, or at least Camille in the Rapid Racing 13 car. That just goes to show that rain really does change a racing environment, because that car was extremely competitive in qualifying by about 0.5 seconds compared to Rick van der Velden's qualifying time, so they're not slow by any means, but that car has been purely set up for a dry race, and as soon as a bit of rain has come into play, they are way off the pace compared to their other LMP2 cars. And now you have Rick van der Velden 3.5 seconds behind Rapid Racing as well. Another team that is really comfortable here at Interlagos in these current conditions. I don't think the race would be as it is now if it wasn't for these current weather. Let's go back to GT3 though, because even now Daniel Vidamari, the Team RSI, and Gregos Bulat in the number 7 BMW GT3 are within 1 second of one another. Now, when we last saw these guys, the number 7 Poland Sim Racing car had just taken back the position from Team RSI and got back into second in class. But since then, I thought that they were going to widen the gap to the number 23 Bentley, but that hasn't happened. So 1.2 seconds as it comes into the mid-sector for the Bentley and the BMW. We're expecting the BMW to be slightly quicker in the mid-sector because it does have slightly better aerodynamics and is a bit lighter on its toes. The Bentley is more of a big cargo ship making its way through the bends as best it can, but it has a better power unit underneath that bonnet. So I'm quite surprised that Daniel Vidamari is able to stay onto the back of this BMW M6 in these current conditions. So got to take my hat off to him for keeping that thing in the shipping lines, as it were, and going straight and true. You can hear just from the engine tone that these guys aren't using all of the horsepower until they're confident 100% that they're not going to get any wheel spin from these GT3 and LMP2 cars. Large braking zone for turn 1 especially, as they come down for lap must be about 30 for the GT3s. You can hear the BMW M6 there, very high gears. He comes through turn 1 and labouring on those revs. And that's what you want to do when it's in weather conditions like this. You've got to take a higher gear for all of the corners. Take it easy in terms of your entry speed. Take it easy. Oh, and as I say that, Team RSI go very wide. The number 23 goes on to the other side of the white lines. As we're just coming up to the end of the first hour of this race. So, as I predicted, none of the teams have decided to come into the pits yet. We have had a few that have come in early, of course, one of which was the number 18 Orica. And Team RSI go very sideways going into turns 9. Again, nicely held there. I thought he was going to go into the barrier. I was awaiting a big smack, but just slides sideways. 54 with Tony Jansen in, goes down the inside. Nicely done there. He's still in P3 in class, and they've made 2 pit stops, weirdly. So that just displays how much pace that team has. The 54 has made 2 pit stops, one at the start of the race, and then one later on, which we didn't get to see. And they're still in a position for a podium finish at this stage. Okay, coming up to the 2-hour mark, and Rapid Racing are being closed down very slowly by Rick van der Velden and the 55 Lola. 1.9 seconds between these two teams. Last lap times 1:35.5 and 1:38.2. Something's wrong with the Rapid Racing car. And then you have the Max Grip Endurance team very sideways there as he goes into turn 1. Manages to save it, but he's off the racing line, which is going to cause him further issues before he gets on to the first back straight. Navigates his way around the 285 car though, and it isn't raining in Sector 1. So that's very interesting, but it is still raining in Sector 2. So Sector 1 is starting to dry, provided that it doesn't start again, but Sector 2 is still raining very slightly. It's not as heavy as it was earlier at the start of this race or the last 30 minutes ago. So we are expecting times to slowly come down and get faster lap times. But the story of the day is that Daniel Poter and the 285 car are a lap down compared to the rest of the LMP2 field, and that is Rick van der Velden and the Rapid Racing 13 car. Just coming up to the back of Team RSI once again. And of course, with the lower power unit consumption, flash the lights there from the 55. Sorry, as I was saying, I'm expecting a lot of the teams to be running on a very low fuel consumption because of the lack of traction on the circuit, and I believe that means that they're going to be going deep into the stints in terms of when they're going to decide to come in and change tyres. It is definitely drying in Sector 1. You can see the sun is out. There's no overshadow. There's no clouds in the sky. So Sector 1 is beginning to dry. You can already see the racing line very faintly, but it's slightly lighter compared to the rest of the surrounding tarmac. So interesting times as we enter the second hour of this race officially, and very nicely done there by the 55 to get through that. And Ricardo Beukman goes very, very off track and onto the grass. He's turned into a 4x4 in the LMP2 car for just a split second. Oh, sorry, apologies, that wasn't Ricardo Beukman, that was the Positive Energy car. And that was David Buckley, who was going off-road and having a small adventure. And there's a yellow flag, and that is the leading GT3. Nuno Miguel Abreu is off track, and that means that he's been demoted into 3rd place. That is a massive off and costing him a lot of time. And leading in GT3 is now Gregor Spielat and the Poland Sim Racing team. Daniel Vidimari also got through in the Bentley, and that means that they are in 1st and 2nd place in class. Rapid Racing go fastest lap 1:32.8. Those are these changing track conditions. The track is getting faster at this stage of the race. Rick van der Velden 6.7 seconds behind. That's a very large gap for that team. 1:38.7, so something went wrong there for the 55. Where is the Max Grip Endurance car? They are in front of the 55, so the 55 has had a turnaround at some point. And we're seeing a lot of purple times now come through because all the teams are starting to cross the lines with faster sectors, and that is a Ferrari that's going wide. Which team was that? I think that was Chris Gonzalez. No, it's not. That was where is this other? I'm trying to find this other GT3 that went very wide into that sector, but he seems to have got underway, whoever it was. Yeah, we'll go back to the lead of the race. because he's obviously got back underway without any issues. There's no yellow flags out on circuit at the moment, but whatever that car was, it went zooming past the camera shot as we entered Sector 2. That was turn 8, I believe. Tony Jansen, 132.2. Now we're starting to see some very quick lap times as we enter lap 39 of this race. Rapid Racing in with a 133.1, so that's also a very fast lap for that team. What is Rick van der Velden's answer to all of this? 136.1, that's not quick enough. He's going to have to find something if he wants to stay attached to the back of the number 13 car. And then Nuno Miguel, new fastest time for GT3, 139.4. He's going to be eager to catch back up to Gregor Spiller, and we have missed an overtake, and that's with Team RSI. So Team RSI get demoted into 3rd place once again, and then we have a battle on our hands between the number 36 Rebellion car and Poland Sim Racing. 1 hour and 55. The 36 very close to the white lines of the circuit and the track limits, and if he touches that grass, then that car is going to get spun right around in that braking zone coming into Sector 2. And that is an overtake for position. That camera shot was very, very bad. And as he does so, he goes wide. There's another mistake there by Nuno Miguel, and Gregor Spiller takes back the position. And it has officially stopped in Sector 2 as well. There is no rain in Sector 2. Tony Jansen, another fastest time, 131.8. And then Camille in the Rapid Racing car, 130.1. That's an entire second quicker. That is immense. Great performance there by the Rapid Racing team. They are looking to expand on the advantage that they have in this event and giving it their all in order to make sure that they come home with a victory at this event. Of course, their last victory was at Sebring 1 month ago, and they're looking to get their second one here this evening. That is a pit entry from the number 7 car. He comes into the pit lane, and that is going to be the first of the front-running GT3s that decides to change their tyres and take more fuel. The Bentley and the Rebellion car go through the main straight onto the start-finish line and continue their charge forward. And once again, the 36 commands the lead of the GT3 pack. I tell you what, this race... Oh, the 666 Ferrari, that is Samuel Rovida. Samuel Rovida is around. Oh no, that's Martin de Break. And he's just got out of the car from the 12 Hours of Sebring. I know that he was saying to me that he is taking part in the 12 Hours of Sebring on iRacing. And he's just done a changeover from a sim where there is no rain to one where everything is wet. So I'm sure he's loving life at the moment, getting into the back... Sorry, getting into the seat of that Ferrari 488 car. And they're currently running 18th overall. Still a few LMP2 cars in and amongst the GT3s. That is the number 40 Spirit Sim Racing car, David Buckley in the Positive Energy, and then the number 84 with Alex. And those cars are several laps down compared to the rest of the LMP2s. And Daniel Potter very sideways there. Ooh, wow, okay. I thought for a second that was going to have a bit of snap oversteer. Nicely saved there by Daniel Potter as he comes down into turn 6. Very twitchy conditions for this car. Clearly not comfortable into Lagos in the wet as he tries to navigate his way around the 77. Nicely done there and gets the job done. Bit of nice clean air now for the LMP2 driver. He's still in P4 with 15 seconds between himself and Tony Jansen in the 54. So it is still possible for this team to get a 3rd place here this evening, and there's still a fair while left in this race before we get to the checkered flag, so anything can happen. Still only 2 DNFs, that is Elise Skinner in the 96 and the Exile Motorsport Ferrari number 57 with Chris Gonzalez. There are the only 2 casualties so far this evening. And it looks like nobody at the moment has an answer to Rapid Racing. Usually I would be saying the same about the 285 car, which is very surprising to myself. And he's coming up behind the 254 car. So Rapid Racing are about to lap the 54 Exiled Motorsport car, and he does so as he goes down the inside of turns 9 and 10. Job done there by the Rapid Racing driver. And that means that he has now got an entire lap worth of security between him and the 3rd place LMP2 car. That is an amazing performance at this stage of the race. To get an entire lap against the rest of your competition in these conditions with only an hour and 10 minutes is incredible. And these aren't slow guys. The 54 car, the last 2 events, has been extremely quick. And of course the 285 has won 6 out of 7 events thus far, so by no means a slow competitor either. The 55 goes past Daniel Potter in the 285 and is coming up behind the 69 Hansa Racing car. And we have a pit stop, and that is for Rapid Racing. So 1 hour and 10 minutes for 1 tank of fuel before the Rapid Racing number 13 car. But Rick van der Velden, though, still going strong in that the Lola. So that is a change for the lead then. Rick van der Velden once again takes the lead of this race. The Eidos Motorsport car gets out of the way for him as he comes down into Sector 2. 69 Hansa Racing car is certainly off pace compared to the 55 and needs to get out of the way. Blue flags are out, and that is going to be a lapped position. Goes off the racing line, and both the cars go through. Looking down the timing now, Tony Jensen also goes into the pits. So that means that Daniel Potter is now, as things stand, in 3rd place. But that's not going to last, because Tony Jensen is just on his way back out onto the tarmac once again and begins his drive into the 2nd stint of this race. Where is Rapid Racing? Rapid Racing have just come out of the pit. That is a very slow pit stop for that team. And that is a driver change. So we have Mikao Nizio in the driver's seat of that car now. So that explains why it took a bit longer compared to the 54 car. How is that going to affect their times? We'll have to wait and find out. As whoa, okay, bit of contact there between Daniel Potter and the 55. This pit lane is extremely slippery, and the drivers have got to be careful there. I'm not too sure. We kind of caught the back end of that footage between the 285 and the 55 in the pit lane, but luckily both cars have managed to make it to the pit box. We'll have to review the footage later. So Team RSI are also in the pit box. They've decided to get some new fuel and tyres as well, and leading the GT3 is Nuno Miguel Abreu. And has he come into the pits yet? That is a no. So the Chevrolet Camaro 36 still needs to come into the pit lane for their first hour of this race. And they have obviously a fairly comfortable gap to the rest of the GT3s of 1 minute, but that will disappear of course once they come in for some new fuel. Of course the track is now beginning to dry. You can see the racing line beginning to emerge, and this is that time of the race where the teams have to make a decision whether or not if they take slicks or stay on the wets, depending on what the weather forecast says. I'm sure we'll see an answer soon enough when these lap times start to plummet down. However, Mikel Nizio retains the lead of this race. They've just gone past the car of Rick van der Velden, and they've got a 16-second gap between the two cars after their pit stops. Of course, Rick van der Velden did come into the pit at the start of this race as well, because he was on slicks for the start of this race. There's Alessio Filito taking the position away from Victor Garrido, by the looks of things, who's in the pit lane. Okay, I'm going to have to do some emergency admin work here for you guys. I do apologise for this. I will be just a few moments while I try and fix an issue, because I'm afraid the live marshal that we have, which is Dan, is unavailable at this moment in time. So I will be 2 seconds, but we will keep the action going for you. It won't interrupt the live stream in any way, shape or form. There just won't be any commentary for a small moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do apologise for that, ladies and gentlemen. We did have a slight issue in terms of a penalty that needed deleting, and as I say, the live marshalling isn't available tonight because Dan, the guy, the admin that usually does it, is currently in the seat of Team CFEG in the 12 hours of Sebring.
Can you go back in the other channel?
Sounded good.
So I do apologise for that, but that has now been resolved and we can continue the live stream for the rest of the race. So as the current situation is. Mikel Nizio in Rapid Racing has a lead of 27 seconds over the rest of the LMP2 field, with Rick van der Velde behind in the 55 Exiled Motorsport car. 10 Tony Jansen in the 54 Exiled Motorsport Lola is 50 seconds behind them both. So they are once again on the lead lap of those cars. And interestingly enough, the new LMP2 team, and that is the 18 Lola, has moved its way back up into P4 in class. Daniel Poter and the Max Grip Endurance team have moved down the order after having a further pit stop for an unknown reason, and that has moved them down into 5th in class. Then you have the Iceberg Racing team, the number 58, with Viktor Sokolov in charge of that car, and they are in P6. And then Hansa Racing, the team that started with such high hopes, has moved down to the back of the order and is in P7 in LMP2. Just looking through the order now, there's not really many battles going on at this moment in time between LMP2 or GT3, as Adam in the Poland Sim Racing number 7 car goes fastest lap in GT3. 1:33.3 was their last lap by the BMW driver. Of course, this is his first showing for the team. Oh, sorry, not the team, rather. It's his first time in the car for this particular event. So they have done a driver change because Gregor Spilat was in charge of that car just a few moments ago. And we have a position change between Iceberg Racing and Hansa Racing, because the Iceberg Racing team has gone wide, and that is in Sector 2, turns 9 and 10. So clearly some issues under braking. Possibly went on to the other side of the circuit. Manages to get back underway though, and there is Speedy Mike Racing, the number 84 car with their custom livery, and oh, contact made as they come into the last corner. Very, very scary moment there for both the LMP2 drivers, but managed to just get away with it. I do not know how they stopped those two cars going into the barrier, but they managed to both continue their charge into the race. 1 hour and 38 minutes remaining, and it looks like Speedy Mike may have a bit of a speed advantage, but that was a very nasty manoeuvre there. Bit twitchy as they come back onto the gas, coming out onto turn 3. I'm sure Speedy Mike Racing and Alex in that car is not very happy about what happened there. Had nowhere to go and gets down the inside, and job done. So the 84 car, of course, not in a position to fight for position in their current class, because they are way down the order in terms of laps. Let's have a look quickly how many they've completed. 44 laps compared to the leading LMP2's 50 laps, so they've got a lot of work to do if they're going to regain those positions. But they are still fighting with David Buckley, and that is with the Positive Energy Racing team. They've just gone across the start-finish line to begin lap 45 of this event, so they could possibly get P9 in class if all goes well for them. Let's go back to the gap in between of each of these cars. And the only battle that I have on my screen at the moment that is for position and with the same category is the 69 Hansa Racing car and George Alves, he's just coming into the pits, so they discard that. That's completely changed because that's no longer relevant. Flash of the headlights there from the Polin Sim Racing BMW as the cars come across the line. Rick van der Velden, new fastest lap, 1:26.5. These lap times are really coming down now. Fastest lap by the Rapid Racing team was a 1:28.5, as the Eidos Motorsport car in the background there is off the circuit in a bad way. Looks like he's made contact with the barrier as well, so not good news for Fabian Ruud. Manages to get the car, the Mercedes, the only one on grid this evening, back on track. So all is well. Almost approaching the halfway mark of this event. With 1 hour and 35 minutes remaining. So Rick van der Velden then, continuing his fast lap times. It's just coming into the last corner now. What's this one going to be? Are we going to have another fastest lap? No. 1:26.7, so it's only 0.2 seconds slower than his current best. We're about halfway through the second stint of the race, so if he can keep that pace up, then he'll be in a very good position to catch Rapid Racing at the end of this stint. The current gap is 21.4 seconds as he dives down the inside of the 666 Ferrari. Nice job there. A bit risky from my perspective, but he managed to get the move done without any issues. And we also do have a fight on our hands between the leading GT3 cars. So Nuno Miguel Abreu and the number 7 BMW are in a tight battle for first in class. This is for the lead in GT3 with 1 hour and 34 minutes remaining. Across the line they go, side by side. Is it for position? Yes, it is. Nuno Miguel Abreu goes into the lead of GT3. 0.2 seconds done and dusted there by the Chevrolet driver. So able to get away then, 0.8 seconds rather, as they go into Sector 2. No issues there for the Chevrolet team. There's been a lot of changing for positions in both LMP2 and GT3, especially between these three teams. I think Team RSI, the number 7 Polin Sim Racing car, and the Rebellion car have all taken a step to the front at some point during the last hour and a half. Alessio Filito also in the charge of the 23 Bentley at this stage. He's got a 30-second gap between themselves and the two leading GT3 cars. So at the very least it looks like they may get third place, but there may still be tactics up their sleeve. They've always got something in reserve at the Bentley garage. So I'll have to wait and see what they can do. Nuno Miguel Abreu, though, did another fastest lap, 1:31.5. Polin Sim Racing have nothing in response. 1:34.1 for them as they come across the line. That Chevrolet Camaro is extremely quick. There's a very wide moment there for the Spirit Sim racing car, and I think that's the 54. Just staying on board with the number 7. See if this battle develops any further, but it looks like the Chevrolet team is going to be able to pull away for the lead of GT3 at this stage of the race. And we are about to officially come across the halfway mark as Mikel Nizio in Rapid Racing sets a new fastest time of 1:26.9. That is 2 seconds, oh sorry, that is, I think the timing board might be slightly off in that respect, because the fastest time I've got on my screen is a 1:26.5, and that was done by Rick van der Velden in the 55 Exile Motorsport car. So although the time did say it was quicker, the last lap done by Rapid Racing was 1:26.9, which, whatever way you put it, that's slower. So I don't believe that that's entirely accurate. And we have had a further DNF, and that is Dean Joes, and that is the AMBU racing car, the 53 Ferrari 488. Tragic news for them as they retire to the garage for unknown reasons. We haven't had anyone message us to say what is wrong with that car. And although I did question the last lap time done by Rapid Racing, you can chuck that out the window because they've just set a new fastest lap time, 1:25.989. That is very impressive lap time indeed. Nuno Miguel Abreu 1:31.4 for them as well. That's the new fastest time for the GT3 category. And the gap between themselves and the Poland Sim Racing car is now 7 seconds. So they are on a real fast mission to get that Chevrolet Camaro as far into the lead as possible at this stage of the race. Obviously the race and the lines are beginning to dry. As you can see in front of you, the track is producing a racing line for them to use, which is only going to make overtaking more risky because all the drivers are going to be on slick tyres from this point forward, provided the rain decides to stay in the sky for the remaining 1.5 hours. But that means that they can't use much of the tarmac to the left or right because that is still drenched with rain. So very interesting tactics here done by the teams, and it's all about who can get the car on that optimal line and get those super fast lap times. Mikel Nizio continues his extension with it, and Daniel Potter just done the fastest lap, 1:25.493. Now we're going to see Rapid Racing come back into play. Oh, and he's gone, oh, as I say that, he's gone into the barrier, turn 2. Contact made there by the 285 driver, and that is going to cause damage to the vehicle. And he has actually gone into fourth place in class because Paul Holt has just gone into the car of the number 54. So interesting tactics there for this team. I'm not too sure why they've come into the pit this early at this stage of the race, but we'll soon find out for sure what their plan is. Maybe they're going to do a quick splash and dash at the end and single stint the tyres perhaps, I'm not too sure, but we'll soon find out. Or maybe they just needed some dry tyres because we haven't actually seen them move over onto slicks. So Rapid Racing then, fastest lap so far in this event. as he comes across the line one more time. Lap 58 of this event has begun. Still has a very comfortable lead over the rest of the pack. Of course, Daniel Poter has now moved up into 3rd place with the 18 Lola 1 second behind. So Daniel Poter is on a recovery drive of his life. He needs to get as many points for this round as possible in order to keep the other 2 teams at bay as we go into the later stages of this championship. It's not going to be easy though, because Mikel Nizio is a very fast driver, as is his teammate. And it looks like Camille in the 18 Lola is struggling in these drying conditions. He's allowing Daniel Poter to get away. 3.2 seconds between himself and the 285 car at the moment. The rest of the field is fairly spread out. Nuno Miguel Abrio in the GT3 category is leading by 12 or 13 seconds. Has just broken the barrier. Obviously the Chevrolet Camaro is quick in both conditions. And Mikel Nizio takes the new fastest lap record, 1:25.2. I think it's just a competition of fastest laps at the moment between these LMP2 teams. We are just going to go for a small commercial break to give my eyes a bit of a rest. So don't go anywhere, because the action is continuing and it is very good to watch. But don't go anywhere, and we will be right back with the remaining 1 hour and 24 minutes of this race and the second round of pit stops. Hello and welcome back to round 8 of the World Sports Car Challenge. We are live with 1 hour and 21 minutes remaining for the 3 hours of Interlagos, and currently leading the way is Mikel Nizio of Rapid Racing. The number 13 cars put in an amazing display of outright speed, and they have a nice comfortable lead of 28 seconds over the rest of the field. But it has not been easy because the other teams have been charging away as well, and we have a car very sideways on the back straight, and that is the Chevrolet Camaro of, let's have a look on my screen, where's the live timing for us? That is the 17th place car, which is Felipe Granado, and that is the new entry for this evening and for this round, the 235 car. So not what we want to see. They're taking the 25 skin for this evening. They have got a custom skin, but it being their first showing, they have not submitted it to us just yet. But another Chevrolet team to add to the ranks. Back to the lead of the race though, because Rick van der Velden, while you was away, did actually claim the fastest lap, 124.431 for the 55 car. His last lap was a 125.5, so an entire second off, but that is a very quick lap by 0.8 seconds compared to the next fastest lap. Bit wide as he comes down into the last corner. Manages to get the Lola turned in though, and gets a good run onto the back straight. And the beginning of lap 63 for this car. We have a new DNF sadly, and that is Fabian Ruud in the Eidos Motorsport car. He is in the garage, and that is the only Mercedes that is on the grid this evening, retired and put away. Back into the toy box it goes. So that means we have 4 cars that are not finishing with this evening. Oh, very squirrely moment for the 69. That looked like he was wrestling with the steering wheel for quite some time before that snapped. Oh, and that is the 54. Wow, that is a massive impact between the two cars. I don't know what caused that. Maybe just a bit off onto the racing line, and that is a ton of damage for the two cars. Paul Holt just side slaps the Hansa Racing car. Not much damage done to his car, mind you. It seems okay in terms of visual damage. Oh no, he's got no front wing. So he's going to struggle to get back to the pit lane as well. So poor Hansa Racing. They always said that they don't get much luck in these races. Well, it's just gone wrong once again with Jean-Pierre in charge of the 69. They've still got the tail fin that's intact, but that's pretty much it after that on that the rear end of that LMP2 car. Got to be very careful coming to the pit lane. Does not look comfortable at all. Looks very strange. Comes within the white lines and into the garage he goes. Paul Holt is still continuing. That is very, very risky. He's going to struggle to slow that car down for turn 1, I suspect. Yeah, he misses the apex completely and goes wide. Speedy Mike Racing avoid that very damaged LMP2 car, but Paul Holt has stayed out of the pit lane. That is got to be a orange flag. He can't just keep going round like that. He's going to be a danger to himself and others. And that sadly means that Hansa Racing lose out on a position because the Spirit Sim Racing car has moved up into 9th place overall, and that will be P7 in class for that team there. course, at this stage of the race, it is extremely dry on the circuit. If you take the racing line into consideration, it is starting to widen as well. As you can see, it's when we started, when the rain finally stopped and the cars were going round, it was a very, very narrow strip of tarmac that could be used for the drier line, but that has definitely increased over the course of the last 15 to 20 minutes. Let's have a look into GT3 as well, because Nuno Miguel Abreu still in the charge of that 36 Chevrolet Camaro, and we just saw a car come into the pits, and that's got to be Paul Holtz. Yes, it is. The 54 comes into the garage, new front wing for that car before it goes back out again. Does that mean that Victor Sokolov is going to take this position though, because he's one lap behind actually, so he's not going to be able to take the position away from Paul Holt in the 54 this time round, but he may be able to do so the next time. And very, very sideways going into turn 1 once again. Seem to be saying that a lot this evening with all these LMP2 cars. And Spirit Sim Racing turns 180. Pedro Bergranca on the curbing there, still very slippery off the racing line. You've got to be careful with those slick tyres, and it looks like he's got damage because it's bouncing all over the place. There's something stuck underneath that car that is not allowing him proper drive, and whatever it is, it's now gone. That is a very very strange issue that team was having there. May have been what caused the car to spin around, but there was nothing on the track after he finally got the car back under control. So very strange moment there for the 40 car. It did look quite funny though, mind you. So the wonders of sim racing and all of that. It certainly does entertain us with the funny issues that you get. Back with Rapid Racing now though, with the 13 car. 24-second gap between themselves and Rick van der Velden. Gap doesn't seem to have changed that much since they got that advantage after their pit stop. Rick van der Velden then still holds the fastest lap of the race thus far with a 1:24.431. Comes across the line with a lap time of 1:25.3, which was 2 seconds quicker than Rapid Racing. 272 kilometers an hour down into the speed trap, and that is about 20 kilometers an hour faster than what we were seeing in the wet conditions. So just goes to show how much time they lose on the straights when the rain hits the surface of the track. Rick van der Velden then and Cal Nizio, the only two LMP2 cars that are on the lead lap, all thanks to the odd conditions at the start of this race with the rain pouring down. A very twitchy moment there for the Exiled Motorsport driver. Manages to wrestle the car back under control in order to get into Sector 2. By the end of this race, I'm sure all of the drivers are going to be experts of driving in changing conditions. Daniel Poacher just set the fastest lap, 1:24.3 on that last lap. Let's have a look at the laps at the moment. So Daniel Poacher is on lap 66, whereas Mikhail Nizio is on lap 68, and then Rick van der Velden is on 68 as well. So they are essentially a lap and a half down compared to the leaders. Very careful between the two GT3s, also the LMP2 and the GT3 team. Of course, Nuno Miguel Abreu leading in class at the moment with 63 laps complete, and then the only person that's on the lead lap for them as well is the 7 Poland Sim Racing car. And there's a fairly large gap between those two cars as well. 21 seconds to be exact. And then in third place in GT3 we have Eliseo Felito in Team RSI, the number 23 car, and he's currently stuck behind the 666 Ferrari of Scuderia Shell Racing. Gets by without issue or incident. I would say to get Rapid Racing in the booth with us at the moment, but I know that as soon as I ask them to come into the commentary box and as soon as we start speaking to them, something wrong is, or something bad is going to strike them, because I seem to have the worst luck in history. So I don't really want to impede their current performance. So I'm going to do the opposite. Rapid Racing have the worst performance out of all of the LMP2 cars thus far, and are likely to burst into a ball of flames. So that pretty much means that they're safe. And I'll say that for all the cars, not just to show that I'm not biased. Oh God! So as I say that, Paul Holt is very sideways into the last corner. So I can't win with this. I really can't. You know, curse the commentator is something that, if I'm nice to a certain car, then they crash and burst into a ball of flames. If I'm nasty to a Pacific car, then the rest of the field bursts into flames. I do take orders. Charges may apply. If you want a team taking out the race, have me say something nice about them, and you are likely to win. Rapid Racing still extending their lead very slowly. 124.7. Of course, it all depends on how much traffic they come across on a lap-by-lap basis for these LMP2 teams. Seem to be going anywhere between 20 to 30 seconds in that margin of a gap between the two leading LMP2s. 8 minutes left until we reach the end of the second hour and the last round of pit stop occurs. Looks like the rest of the race is going to be fairly dry though. There's no signs of rain revisiting the circuit on the screen. There's no shadows in the background anywhere either, so it looks like we are in for a dry hour of the race. Cue thunderstorm. .32 seconds now between Rick van der Velden, so he must have had a bad piece of traffic in order to lose 4 seconds to Team 13. Where's Iceberg Racing gone? They've just disappeared. Viktor Sokolov in the 58 car goes very wide coming into turn 7. I'd be surprised that most of these corners do actually have names. However, being a complete incompetent fool, I'm very scared to try and pronounce them without making a complete idiot of myself. Of course, I already make a fool of myself when trying to pronounce most of the driver names. I think that using the Brazilian corners would just be a step too far for you as spectators. Just going through the order, still no battles going on. All is fairly quiet, and we have a yellow flag out on track. Where is that? And that is the 10th place car. That is Hansa Racing. Further bad news for this team. It looks like we caught the back end of that one as they regain some control of their LMP2 car. Of course, if you are new to the series or want to find out the details of the World Sports Car Challenge, please head over to our website, which is at the bottom of the screen for you, checkeredflagendurance.com, and follow all the links to the forum where you'll find all the details and regulations. Poor Hansa Racing though, leading for a good half hour, if not longer, at the start of this event. And after the first round of pit stops, it seems to have all gone wrong for them. And they're now 8th in class as a result of all their issues. And I think the biggest issue that they had was when Paul Holt came off track with them. Must have done the same thing as the 69 car, and they both ended up in exactly the same place. And it was unfortunately the 69 car that acted as the braking board for the 54. Of course, in 2 weeks' time, we head over to the third 6-hour race of the season, which is the 6 Hours of Dubai, and that's on the 24th of March. So that's definitely going to be an interesting one. It's going to be going in from day and into night time for the next round. And Dubai is one of them circuits where I think it's a bit like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. It's definitely going to present a different challenge for the drivers. One hour and 3 minutes remaining in this event then, at the 3 Hours of Interlagos, or Brazil. And in good position and ready to score some points with their second victory will be Rapid Racing in the 13 car, currently driven by Michael Nizio. And Daniel Poter has just set the fastest lap of the race, 1:24.325, as he came across the line, but he is still a lap and a half down compared to the front running teams. All of the teams in the LMP2 category that are on podium positions are in 1:24s. Was it Rapid Racing 1:24.5? The 55 Exile Motorsport car is a 1:24.7. And then, of course, Daniel Poter and the Max Grip Endurance team, 1:24.3. So, all three competitive teams are on similar lap times at this stage of the race with 1 hour to go. Of course, we are expecting the cars to get slightly quicker at this stage because they will be on a low fuel tank and putting down quick lap times. But it is the stage of the race once again where they will need to go into the pits for one final time to get some more fuel and some new tyres to finish off and get to the checkered flag. and that's a further DNF. That isn't the first of the LMP2 teams to DNF, and that is the Speedy Mike Racing car. That is the 84, their first showing of the season, and they sadly can't continue to race, and they will finish in 17th place over the course of the next hour as the rest of the GT3 teams take away that position. So sad news for that team. And also setting the new fastest lap was Daniel Potter. That was the previous lap we've just seen gone by, 124.1. So are we going to see a GT3 break into the 123s perhaps? That'll be interesting to see. And Cliff van der Veen is now in charge of the 55. So the 55 Exile Motorsport car has gone into the pits, and that is their driver change completed. And Cliff van der Veen now will begin his last remaining hour of the race and take that Lola to either victory in first place or at least second place in LMP2. Touch wood. Okay, so Team RSI currently in second place in class, and that is because the... Oh, wow, okay, that's news. That's new. The number 7 BMW, the number 7 Pony Sim racing car is a DNF. And that's a further... And we've got another DNF. What's happened to all the cars? They're all exploding everywhere. That's Hansa Racing. Also another DNF. That's 1, 2... That's 6 cars now. 6 cars have decided that they can't continue the race for one reason or another, and that means that Team RSI are now in second place. The Rebellion car, the number 36, is in the pit lane, and that is a driver change, which means they reach the regulations for their team. And that is Helder Barbosa in the charge of that car, who I don't believe we've seen in the 36 before. Where is the 23 Bentley? Issues there for connection issues by looks of things for the 23. So we'll come back to them in just a small moment when they've got that resolved and they reconnect to the circuit. There we go. 23 Bentley still continuing with a 4.6 second gap between themselves and the 36 Chevrolet Camaro. However, the 36 has just come out of the pit lane, and the 23 still needs to go in for one final stop. So, did the 69 crash into the number 7 then? Because I'm getting reports on the chat window saying that the number 7 may have had a collision with the LMP2 car, and the only ones that DNF'd at the same time would be the 69 of Hansa Racing. So, possibly... is that the case? Oh no, the number 7. Where's the number 7? The number 7 is back underway. That's very strange indeed. So the number 7 BMW M6 is able to continue the race, and they are now in P5 in GT3. So I'm not too sure what happened there. Maybe someone can explain to us. Ricardo Beutmann is in the commentary box with us to explain. Ricardo, welcome to the commentary box. What exactly happened there? Explain to us. Ricardo, you got your mic muted.
You hear me now?
Yep. So tell us what happened to the Hansa Racing car.
Well, really strange race for us. I mean, it started really well for us, but well, I think after a half an hour or so, we just started to get very bad luck. We had lots of contact with other cars, mostly GTs. And after the driver change, Hellpub had a lot of crashes with other LMPs. Some of them just doing donuts on the racing line and crashing into us, or dive bombing us from 60 meters away and crashing into us. And we always ended up in the pit lane, and with each repair stop, our car got a second slower. And in the end, it just had no sense anymore to go any further. So we had to stop the car.
Yeah, we saw that massive impact on the stream with Paul Holt and the 54 going sideways. I think you both did the same thing. We only caught the back end of it when you was actually sideways into the runoff area, and then we just saw the 54 completely come into the side of you, presumably doing the same thing as you did to lose control of the car. But I take it that cost you a lot of time as well in terms of the race. You guys were doing so well at the start of this event. You was leading with a nice gap after choosing to go on wets to begin with, and it seems like another flurry or combination of bad luck has decided to hit your team.
Yeah, well, it was a very funny call, I think, because at the warm-up, at the last 2 seconds, it started to rain. At the last 2 seconds before the server switched over to the race, it started to rain. But at the race session itself, it was dry again. That's because the server needs about a minute or so to load in the weather.
Yep.
And that's why all of the other LMP cars thought it would be dry, and so they got out with slicks. But we just thought because as well we were on the back of the LMP field, we just took the wets and pokered, and well, it worked out for us. But the rest is history.
Yeah, it hasn't been a great race for you guys. The next round being the 6 hours of Dubai. How do you find the circuit?
I don't know it yet.
Have you not driven on it before?
No.
Well, it's definitely going to be an interesting one for you. It's certainly a different experience, I'll tell you that much. It's a good mixture of corners and a combination of the track itself. I'm sure you'll enjoy it a lot.
Oh, I hope so. We are all looking forward to this race.
Well, sorry to see that you've not been able to finish after all the things that have happened to you, and best of luck for the next round.
Thank you. See you next round.
Will do. Okay, so that was Ricardo Beutmann, one of the drivers for Hansa Racing, sadly not able to finish the race with us this evening, and they retire the car to the garage and wait for the next round, which will be the 6 hours of Dubai. Still leading the way though is Mikel Nizio in the Rapid Racing car as he comes down into the last corner now. I don't believe he's come into the pits yet, if I'm truly honest. Let's have a look at the window. It says yes, he has. And we have yellow flags out on the circuit. And they've just disappeared once again, so it must have been a small incident, luckily. Everyone's able to continue, no issues. And Cliff van der Vin is an entire lap down compared to Mikel Nizio. So Rapid Racing have done a really good job. Mikel can't have come into the pit lane. That's impossible for them to make up that amount of time in that small amount of a window, unless Cliff van der Vin had a major incident on track. Let's have a look in GT3. We have Nuno Miguel Abreu in the commentary box with us. Nuno, welcome to the commentary box. You're live with us and the stream. 36 cars going very well at the moment. Tell us how your race has been so far.
Hello everybody. Well, the race was really good because when we joined the race session, it was a full dry track, and then in the formation lap it started raining as hell. So a few few bets were on the table. I chose to go on slick tires all the way, and it paid off right in the end of the stint when the other drivers were in wet tires, and after that it was really good.
Yeah, definitely able to take advantage. So you're saying that you went through the entire first hour of this race on slicks when it was
Yes.
pouring down with rain. That is incredible. I'm surprised you've
Well,
been able to keep that on the track because
yeah,
a lot of the teams were struggling.
It was a bit hard, but as we have traction control in these cars, it puts it a little bit easier. So you just need to stay on the line and avoid curves and go out the line, because if you go in the wet surface, you're gone.
Well, you guys haven't had much luck in terms of the last few races, but you're in a good position for this particular round. The only person you've got behind you at the moment is Team RSI, who are leading the championship. Are you worried about them at this stage of the race?
Well, I don't think so. I'm not sure if they have to stop till the end of the race, because they are in a different strategy. But we don't need to do it. So as Elder is now in front of him, I think, yeah, and he is going a little bit faster. It is. We are now focused on get the car to the line and see what happens.
Well, best of luck to you guys. You're currently leading GT3, and you've got just under an hour remaining. 50 minutes has just been broken on the time session status. So best of luck to you, and hopefully you'll be back in here for the interviews having won.
Yeah, I will. Well, see you.
Alright, thanks very much. Take it easy. Okay, so that was Nuno Miguel Abreu, one of the drivers for the 36 Rebellion car. Uh, 48 minutes remaining in this race. Now Cliff van der Vin is on doing 125.8 in terms of his lap by lap pace. He's not going to be able to catch Rapid Racing in his current position. He is still plus 1 lap down compared to the Rapid Racing car. I don't think that they've calculated that correctly, because by last time we saw the leading LMP2 cars, they had about 30 seconds in between them. So somewhere along the lines, and somehow we've missed it, the Rapid Racing car has gained around 40 seconds against Cliff van der Vin and the 55 Exile Motorsport car. So whether or not the Rapid Racing car still needs to come into the pit box is yet to be seen. They still have met the regulations in terms of driver changes thus far. They don't have to worry about that at this stage of the race. So the question is, do they need to make a further pit stop? And I don't think they do, because looking at the pit window, he's already come in for one stop, and his teammate has already counted for one of those. So I believe that Mikel Nizio will be able to go to the end of this race. And Cliff van der Vin has made 2 pit stops, even though he's only been in the car for 1 hour. So that explains why he is so far down in comparison to the Rapid Racing car. If we look in terms of laps as well, Mikel Nizio is on lap 86, whereas Cliff van der Vin is on 84. And then the 285 car with Balazs Haza, who is the new team driver for the Max Grip Endurance team, is on lap 83. So, in his first showing, I'm sure he's excited to be in his current position of 3rd place in the LMP2 car. Last lap time was 126.3, so it's fairly competitive for the LMP2 category, though sadly not quick enough to compete with the two front running teams, but I'm sure that will speed up over the next 45 minutes or so. Let's go back to the gap timing and see if there's any battles ongoing for this race, and we do have a close gap between Claudio Barrera and Alexis Clapano. This is the 77 Martini racing car and the AMBU racing team as well, the 61 Ferrari 488, and there's a 3.3 second gap between these two teams. So let's have a look as they go across the timing line. 132.7 for the Martini racing car, and then 133.5 for the AMBU Ferrari 488. So unless he can find some pace somewhere else, he's not going to be able to catch the 77. Just switching over to Ernesto Brock, who for some reason is in the pit lane. He's the last car on the timing boards, which is a bit strange. Not sure what's happening there, but we'll move on. Right, so Cliff van der Veen is now on the lead lap. Both on lap 86. And what does that mean for Macau Nizio? He's still out and on track. And Cliff van der Veen, last lap time 126.5. So he needs to get rid of an entire minute in 44 minutes, and at this current pace it's not going to happen. So as things stand, Rapid Racing are going to be looking at their second victory of this season, and the Match Grip Endurance team will have to make do with third. They still have the 18 car close behind, 14 seconds or 15 seconds between them two as he goes wide into the second sector. So the question is, can Camille in the 18 Lola catch up to the back of the 285 car? Their last lap times are similar. Let's have a look as they go across the line to make sure. I'll stay close to these guys for the next few laps to see what kind of lap by lap pace they're producing and whether or not they're going to come to a close at the end of this race. So last lap for Balatsaza was a 126.2. One from Camille was a 127.8. So it is quite a bit slower, but that may have been due to GT3 traffic, so we'll stay on board with them for the few moments and wait for them to cross the line once again to get an idea of what kind of pace they are actually doing. Very wide as he comes down into turns 4 and 5. Looking at the rest of the timing, there's a fairly substantial gaps in between these cars, and in the commentary box with us is Daniel Poter. Of course, he's one of the drivers for the 285 car. Daniel, it's been a very interesting race for yourselves and your teammates, but you've managed to get back into position for a podium finish. So tell us how your race has gone from your perspective.
Hey, well, not that well, to be honest. If I said that last race at Portimao we had a bad race, then this one's even worse. So I'm gonna be happy. So maybe next race is gonna be even better, if that's the pattern that's going on. So I'll say that it's pretty good in terms of the recovery we did, even though it was not such a recovery because we were on a different strategy. But it wasn't really looking like a good finish either way. So. Yes, we were not really on the top level today, so yes, didn't go our way, not at all.
So what was the cause behind that? Because usually I'm always saying that the 285 car is unmatched in every aspect, but you was third place in terms of qualifying, which is unheard of in the season, and you seem to have really struggled in the rain. My question is to you: did you set up your car to be purely suitable in dry conditions, or was it more of a case of there wasn't much time to practice in the rain?
Well, talking about qualifying, it was the case that the track got quicker and quicker each lap. So I had a pretty decent run right at the end. I crossed the line with like 30 seconds to go. All the way up to the first sector, I was in like a 2-second advantage, but then got hold up in turn 6 by GT, so that lap was ruined. And I would have probably been able to gain like 2/10 in the last corner just because I slid through it on the previous lap, so I knew I had still time in the laps, and yeah, I couldn't actually get it done, so that's how I got third. And in terms of the race, the thing is that my teammate told me that look out because it's raining. I was like, it's not raining on the server, but then he said on the stream it was raining. So
did you turn off your effects?
No, I didn't. It was just the case that I was not out on the track and I couldn't really see it. And you know, there's a little lag when the server is restarted. It takes a little while for
the weather to come
actually.
in. Yep.
Exactly. So I haven't seen that even when the server was on the race. So I was like, it's not raining, dude. Are you sure it was raining? And he was like, no, not really. I'm not sure, but I saw some rain. And then I was like, yeah, let's go for sticks. Let's go for the safer version, I guess. But then on the halfway through the formation lap, it turned out it was actually raining. So that didn't work out either.
Well, it is just one of them things, of course, with the plugin, it does take time. Luckily, when I was on the stream, it just literally started to come down at the end of the warm-up session, so I knew that we was going to have a rainy start, and of course that definitely spiced things up for me up here in the commentary box, when there was the LMP2 cars diving everywhere, trying to scramble for some new tyres. But it has been definitely an eventful race for you guys. You've been fighting in and out of the podium, it seems. 1 minute you was down into P7, I believe, before you fought your way back up again. So it has been a good recovery drive, even if you do say it was on an alternative strategy. And it looks like your new driver is currently going to finish in P3 in class, which I have to say, for a race that is all about minimising the damage that you're going to receive in terms of points, isn't that bad a result? The only person that's behind you is Camille, and that is the 18 car. They've got 16 seconds between yourselves, and that is for third in class. Do you think they can catch you within the next 38 minutes?
So just looking at the times of the previous laps, it wouldn't look like it. And I'm pretty confident that our new driver is pretty consistent. So I don't think he's gonna mess things up, even though I'm gonna knock on wood. So yeah, our new driver is probably one of the best we could get in terms of being new to the whole game, or to the whole simulator, because it was basically when we were at Bahrain, when he got the simulator for the first time. So it's pretty evident that he is actually pretty damn quick and very talented. So it's just a matter of time, and he's gonna be right up there.
Well, for current leaders of the championship, I think that's the equivalent of getting a Ferrari drive in Formula 1, that's for sure. At least for this series. So he's done good to get a seat with you guys, and fingers crossed he can help you get the trophy at the end of the season.
We definitely hope so.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But next round is at Dubai, so how are you guys looking forward to that one? Is it a track you have much experience with?
Honestly, I have never raced at Dubai, and I don't think my teammate has either, so it's gonna be a new experience, but at least we're gonna have 2 weeks to practice, because I for myself only had 1 week of practice for this round, and it kind of showed it. But yeah, I'm just gonna look forward to the next race. So yeah.
Well, best of luck to you guys. There's still 36 minutes left in this race, and your teammate is putting down some decent lap times, so fingers crossed you can keep the 18 car at bay. But I'll be lying if I didn't say I'd like to see a fight between the two cars in the next 30 minutes or so.
Well, for the commentary, I mean for the broadcast, it would be pretty good to have a fight, but I wouldn't like it so much.
No, you've done well to get in your current position, and I wouldn't want to ruin that for you by asking your driver to slow down. So best of luck, and we'll see you in 35 minutes or in 2 weeks' time.
See you, dude.
Alright, thanks very much. So that was Daniel Potter, one of the drivers for the 285 car, currently in 3rd place and being driven by their new driver, which is Blatzhazer. He's doing a great job. As you just heard, he's new to Rfactor2, but he's doing fairly quick lap times, 1:26.5 being his last. And right behind is Camille in the 18 LMP2 Lola, and his last lap time was a 1:26.3, so definitely pushing hard in order to try and catch up, and he has to take away 16 seconds from the 285 car if he wants to take the podium position. Question is, can he do it? It's going to be a tall order for this LMP2 team. Last lap time was a 1:26.2, so it is slightly quicker, but not by much. And with that kind of time, he needs to be taking off at this stage of the race about 0.5 seconds per lap if he's going to catch the back of the 285 car. Back to the front of the pack though, Macau Nizio still leading the way with lap 94 about to begin. Let's see, what would really spice this race up is a bit more rain right now, and then that would definitely throw a spanner in the works for a lot of the teams here. We have had quite a few DNFs, sadly. Only 15 cars still running out of 21 starters. Cliff van der Ven still hanging on to the lead lap as he comes down into the last corner now. I do think that is slightly broken though, because of course in order to be lapped he needs the Rapid Racing car to overtake him, but for some reason the game believes that after about 1 minute 10 that counts as an entire lap down, which of course is not the case. Because an entire lap is about 1 minute 23 for these LMP2 cars. 1 minute 3 seconds though between the two teams, and although it did look like the 55 car could win this round, that has slowly ebbed away due to several issues through the 3-hour event. Going back to GT3, there's a large gap between the 36 Rebellion car and the second place car, which is Alessio Filito, Team RSI. They are going to hold on to their championship lead at the end of this round. Although their only victory has been at Road Atlanta, they have been able to get second place in pretty much every single round other than one. So, and that was a 3rd place finish. So every single round that they have participated in, Team RSI always finish on the podium. So they will extend their lead. The next car down in terms of the championship points is the number 7 Poland Sim Racing car, and of course they have sadly had to retire to the garage. So that only means that the lead will extend in favour of the 23 Bentley team. And now I've had a few people come to me and say that the Bentley is slightly unbalanced in terms of the rest of the GT3s. Not in the fact that it's super fast, but quite the opposite. There's a lot of Chevrolet teams in this series, and most of them are saying that the Chevrolet Camaro is the quickest car in the GT3 pack, but I have to argue with that because the results do not lie, and this Bentley GT3 team is certainly putting on a show and leading the way. in terms of the championship overall. Paul Holt goes down onto the inside of Team RSI's Bentley GT3. Bit of an odd moment for their team as they went sideways into the Hansa racing car. Big collision there in Sector 2. As we just reached the last 30 minutes of this race. Now this is the part of the event where teams can start to relax. Most of the race has already passed, and the positions are now starting to become settled. So what I mean by that is the competition spreads out quite a fair bit. You don't have to worry about the guys that are behind you anymore. You know, larger gaps begin to appear as the strategies come to a head. And the number 7 BMW is still going strong. They I have to correct myself. I stated earlier that they have been put down as a DNF, but I will correct myself in saying that they did get back underway. If I remember correctly, and they are still going around. They are in P4 in class, as they've taken away the position from the AMBU 61 racing car. That is the Ferrari 488 GT3. So I do apologise for that. And just going back to the LMP2 field, it looks like the number 18 Lola is falling behind just slightly. Now 18.2 seconds between themselves and the 285 car, so it looks like with 30 minutes remaining that position is secure, provided that the 285 doesn't make any mistakes. And his last lap time was a 125.581, which is a massive improvement. 0.5 seconds knocked off the driver's overall times. He was, of course, doing 126s earlier on. And into the pits comes the number 18. So that's very interesting to see. Maybe they need some new fuel and some new tyres. And what's he doing there? I'm not too sure. Not good news there for the 18. Just seemed to have gone to a stop in the pit box and then got back underway again. Maybe he had a stop and go, but usually they last for about 5 to 10 seconds, so I don't think that is the case. Very strange. But that means that he is gone back down the order a bit. 45 seconds now separating the 285 and the 18 Lola. Paul Holt, who's the next car down, the 54, is an entire lap down from the number 18, so he's not going to be able to fight for position, even if he was able to catch up to the back of the 18 Lola, which is sad news. Macau then in a position to take the second win of the season for Rapid Racing, the number 13. He just needs to survive the last remaining 27 minutes as he goes sideways into turn 10. Very twitchy moment there for the LMP2 driver, and a nice save as he tries to regain control of those tyres. That must have been a very scary moment. Of course, as I said earlier, at this stage of the race, you may begin to relax. And with a lead of 1 minute and 2 seconds, I can understand if he does. Just take it easy, don't push the car 100%. You can start to take the pace off the car and maybe go 80% in terms of commitment to each of the corners, just to be that extra bit safe at this stage of the race. Last lap was a 127.1 for the team. But although he can start to relax entering the latter stages of this race, he cannot allow his concentration to dip for 1 second. Of course, with these LMP2 cars, the amount of speed that they're taking into the corners themselves, all it takes is for one small millisecond and you could be off and into one of the barriers that line the Interlagos circuit. This team has done extremely well to get into their current position. I would not like to see that happen for them. Let's have a look on the live timing, see where all of the cars are. We've got a few cars going into Sector 2 at the moment. All of them are fairly spread out. You have the 285 car trying to get round Team RSI in the mid-sector. Of course, this is the most complicated part of the circuit here at Interlagos. I'm sure the LMP2 drivers will, and the GT3 drivers will have something to say to the admins at the end of this race, because it is so narrow and complex that traffic management is almost near impossible for the LMP2s to get by at that part of the circuit. But for the most part, especially even during the rain, we haven't witnessed many large collisions between the cars. Which of course is always nice to see. Let's have a look at the lower tier GT3 field. At the bottom of the order is Samuel Rovida in their 666 Ferrari. We haven't really watched them too much during this event. They haven't really had that much good luck, but they are still going. +5 laps to the next competitive person, which is an LMP2 car, and I think that is Speedy Mike Racing. However, they are still going to score points. That's the thing about these events. You just need to get to the checkered flag and you will score points. They're currently running in P6 in class, and that's GT3, and that's only because all of the other teams have had DNFs. Next car up is the Speedy Mike car. Very well painted, I must say, for this LMP2. I think it is the Gibson Nissan powered car that they're taking for the remainder of the season. Their first showing so far, not been a great result for them, but again, although they are way down the order, even as far as GT3 is concerned, as long as they get to the checkered flag, they will score points, and that's what matters, of course, at the end of the day. As long as you keep the car rolling when that ticker reaches 0. Coming up onto the back of Team RSI, who are in second place. Goes down the outside line, and nicely done there. Next car up from the bottom of the runners is the 61 AMBU racing car. They are in 5th place in GT3, and not the quickest team on the grid, of course, compared to some of the ones that have had DNFs, and I'm sure they're going to be quite pleased with the points that they're going to receive at the end of this round. Once again, another team that has not had the best of luck here this evening at the 3 Hours of Interlagos. Not their first showing either. And I'm told that they do have a lot of experience in the Sim Racing Asia group or league, so I'm sure they know that it is important just to get to the checkered flag before you park it in the garage. Iceberg Racing team still going strong. They've had a lot of issues as well amongst the other LMP2 teams. Currently being driven by Viktor Sokolov, his teammate Alexander Meshkov. You can see the blue flag held out there by the marshal as they come down the main straight. Doesn't make the move into turn 1. He's going to wait for the main straight as he comes out of turn 3 in the S's. And there we go, position taken, and the pass is complete. Number 18, going back to the fight that we was looking at for the Lola car and the 285, they've gone way down the order. Now an entire lap after their pit stop occurred, so I'm not too sure again what happened. Martin93 says, what's going on? Matt Scrip is not winning. Shocked face. Yeah, it has happened. It happened to them at Sebring when they DNF'd after an engine failure, and sadly it's happened here today for them as well. But the positions have been well earned for Rapid Racing and Cliff van der Veen this afternoon. And that will definitely spice things up in terms of the championship points as well. But yeah, the number, back to what we've got in front of us, the number 18 car has gone an entire lap down compared to Balatzhazer in the 285, so the position for the top 3 cars is pretty much guaranteed, provided that nothing else happened, just touch wood. And then the car behind the 18 is Paul Holt in the 54, and that is the Exiled Motorsport car, the second of the 2 Lola LMP2s. Now this car has been beaten up as well during the race, the biggest of which must have been the side slap that they did with Hansa Racing, the 69 car, who sadly can't finish. And pretty much all of the cars have at least a minute between them. Or not far off, and the only ones that are not or don't have a large gap between them is probably the Poland Sim Racing car, the number 7, and AMBU Racing. .15 seconds separating themselves from one another. Last lap times are in favour of the BMW team by 0.6 seconds. Let's see what you can do going across this line here. 1:32.2, and then Alexis Clapano in the Ferrari 488 is just coming over the brow of the hill now. Gets out of the way for the number 54 Lola car and comes across the line with a 1:32.731. So not on pace with the Poland Sim Racing car at this stage of the race, and with 17 minutes remaining, I doubt he'll be in a position to fight for that position come the checkered flag. Trying to find some action for you guys, but it looks like all of the cars are fairly spread out. It doesn't look like we're going to get any faster laps as well, as it looks like you're all talking about the fastest lap. The best lap thus far in this race is Mikhail Nizio with a 1:23.5. That occurred after Daniel Potter set his fastest lap when the adverts were last on with an hour and a half to go. Rapid Racing then definitely putting 285 in their place, at least for this round. This team is in second place in terms of the championship standings, and they just need to take this car home to close the gap by a fairly nice chunk of points as well. Currently Max Grip Endurance Team are on 150 points, and Rapid Racing on 129. That's after 7 rounds of racing, and both teams have had a DNF at some point during the race as well. So the rule that states that your worst result will be cancelled out, and we only count 10 of 11 rounds of the points in terms of the end result. So that won't, essentially, that won't come into play because they've both had a DNF. So those points are all legitimate, is what I'm trying to say. It's only going to get closer before we head to the next round as well. 25 points for Rapid Racing, and I think it's 18 points for 3rd place. I think that's correct in saying that. Oh, very twitchy moment there for Mikel Anizio as he comes into Sector 2 for lap 107 and only 15 minutes remaining of this 3-hour event. What an amazing drive from this team. It's not over just yet though. They still need to navigate their way around the circuit of Interlagos just a few more times. I'd say another 11 to 12 laps before we get the checkered flag presented to us. It may be, was it 18 points for 3rd? I thought it was 20. It might be. I'm a bit tired as of late. I've just come out of the car from the 12 hours of Sebring, so that may be incorrect. It may be 20. I'm not entirely sure. You'll have to double check it for us and get back to me. Yellow flags are out. Where is that? Further incidents happening before we get to the checkered flag. Although they've disappeared now, so however it was, back underway. See if we can have a look into the points, just so I can confirm it to you. 3rd is 20 indeed. Yeah, okay. So, do apologise, it is 20 points. So, apologies for the typing, but I'd just like to announce on stream, although it's unrelated to WSCC, however, in the 12 hours of Sebring, both GT3 and Daytona prototype teams, which are being driven by the CFEG members, are currently in 1st place. So I'll say that again, CFEG, or Team CFEG, in both the Daytona prototype and the GT3 car for the 12 hours of Sebring on iRacing, currently in 1st place in class. So I think you'll all join me in saying a well done to both the teams there. And it's still a long way to go for the 12s of Sebring. It started at around 1:30 GMT, but definitely good show from those guys. Varo says, you're giving me a heart attack back. Don't want to see my guys losing that big chunk of points. Yeah, that is true. They're going to close into you guys coming into Dubai, the 6 hours, and of course, neither of you have actually driven on Dubai. That is both teams, Rapid Racing and the Match Grip Endurance team. So it's definitely going to be interesting. Who can master the 6 hours of Dubai? Nighttime and daytime. Of course, in blistering hot conditions as well. Although with the app, I'm sure you'll all moan that it'll be racing at some point during the 6-hour event. And then after that, it's the 3 hours of Spa, and then on towards the 6 hours of Daytona, which is definitely going to be one of my favourite ones to commentate on. 11 minutes remaining and yellow flags are out on the circuit. All the cars are currently moving though. No, they're not. The number 6, and that is Paul Holt in the 54. He's back underway now. Oh no, sorry, that's Victor Sokolov. Victor Sokolov in the 58 has had a turnaround or an incident of some sort. We've only caught the back end of it after the yellow flags have come out. So something has happened to that car. Doesn't lose any positions as a result though, because why is Paul Holt coming into the pit lane? Just been looking at the timing. Why has he decided to come into the pits now? Splash and dash perhaps for the 54 Lola car. Looks like it's just going to be a quick stop. The car hasn't gone up onto the jacks, so it won't be taking new tyres. I love this camera shot at this track. The speed at which they cross. Oh, still a bit twitchy there for the 58. Of course, making a mistake or getting a DNF at this stage of the race is bad news indeed. Back to the leader of the race though. Mikel Nizio still leading the way for Rapid Racing, the number 13 car, with a lead of 1 minute and 7 seconds over the rest of the field. He's now broken into single digits in terms of the minutes left, 9 minutes and 40 seconds remaining, and then he can claim victory here at the 3 hours of Interlagos. Round 8 of the World Sports Car Challenge. I'm sure the excitement is starting to build in the Rapid Racing garage, or the chat room, whatever you want to call it. And they're going to be taking their second victory of this season and close the gap towards the current leaders, Max Grip Endurance Team, as we head towards the 6 hours of Dubai in 2 weeks' time. We have 3 rounds after this. After Interlagos, we have 3 remaining rounds, and those are going to be Dubai, Spa, and Daytona. 2 of which are going to be 6-hour events, which means it's going to start in the daytime and finish at night rather. That's what I get for reading and commentating at the same time. We're 6th in class, says Ethan Curley. Let's have a look. Take it that's in GT3. Oh, that's the wrong one. Silly me. I take it you're on about the 666 Ferrari when you say that, Ethan. I can't wait for Daytona. I love it. I absolutely adore Daytona. It has to be one of my favourite circuits in the entire motorsport world. And of course Spa is another one of my favourites as well. Dubai, on the other hand, it's not a favourite per se, but it is challenging, and that's why I do like Dubai. It's unlike any other circuit you'll ever drive on. You can't even compare it to the likes of Bahrain in terms of the atmosphere and the feeling that you get when you go past the grandstands. It's definitely a circuit that will have an impact. Let's just put it that way. I mean, Bahrain is, in my opinion, it's a good circuit, but it's not one that excites me. You know, to when I race at Bahrain, or if I'm commentating and watching a race at Bahrain, it doesn't really do much for me in that sense. But Dubai, on the other hand, watching real life series, real life action like the 24 Hours of Hankook series, and they do an entire season there with touring cars and GT3s and everything else. It is definitely going to be an exciting race to watch, especially with the transition from day to night. Six minutes remaining then between all of these, for all of the cars and the teams. And after this, I will have to get back into the seat of our C-Fed car and continue. I do believe that Reardeg, or one of the admins, is hosting a stream for the 12 hours of Sebring, and we also have a link for the Daytona prototype team as well for the 12 hours of Sebring. So after this, once we wrap up things here in 5 minutes time, and once we've done our interviews and all the congratulations have been passed around, please do show up to one of the streams for our iRacing event and show us some support there. We still have a long road to go, and of course iRacing doesn't have a night to daytime transition either. So it's going to be very weird racing at night when in game it's still daytime. But yeah, pop over to the stream that Reardeg is currently hosting, or to, I think it's Imanis, who's in one of the drivers for the Daytona prototype, and show them some support so that they can get to the checkered flag. But back to the racing here. 5 minutes remaining. Rapid Racing is still going strong. There's not much action going on elsewhere. There's a 8 second gap between Pascal Chapon, but that's an LMP2 car, so we won't watch them. We'll keep our eyes on the leader for the time being. In terms of the driver changes and in terms of the regulations surrounding stints, the driver needs to complete a 1 hour driving time over the course of the entire race, with a 5-minute window for errors and pit stops. So, if you wanted to argue with us about that, technically you could pit at 55 minutes and still be qualified as meeting the regulations. And that is to allow a bit of strategy and a bit of, you can still undercut your opponent, and you can still come into the pits 5 minutes late, or 5 minutes early rather, in order to conduct the driver change. So that is the reason that there's a 5-minute window allowance for that to take place. But the only rule is that you need to have at least an hour's driving time through the course of the race itself. If you want to do that in 20-minute stints, then be my guest, but I wouldn't recommend it. All these little rules are in the regulations. It's worth a read. You may find something interesting out and may be able to turn it into an advantage at some point. I have to say, the sun in the sky of Brazil is starting to get very low indeed. There's a lot of shadow and overcast as they come down past the grandstands for one of the final times. The two leaders of each class, Rapid Racing and the 36 Rebellion car, coming across the line and into turn 1 in unison there. Gave enough room to one another. I'm sure there's a large amount of respect between the two teams at this stage. If not, then I'm wondering why. Both in a position where they've got everything to lose. I'm sure that if anything, you would give as much room as possible to make sure that your cars finish in their respective positions. Rapid Racing just need to take it extremely easy. No silly manoeuvres. They have a lead of 1 hour. 1 hour. Sorry, that would be an interesting one, wouldn't it? Was everyone else standing still to get a lead of 1 hour? It's a 1 minute and 16 second lead over the next car, which is Cliff van der Vin in the 55 Exile Motorsport car. And Cliff van der Vin is coming to the pit lane, which is interesting. He won't lose out on position, so he will go officially a lap down. He will go off the lead lap compared to Mikhail Nuzio as he comes to a stop in his pit box. So it's just going to be a quick splash and dash of fuel for the 55. Stop drinking while commentating. Yes, it is an issue. I will get help. And the 285 is too far behind in order to take advantage of that as well. So Cliff van der Ven just needed a quick splash and dash of fuel, and away he goes again. Of course, when you're playing strategically like that, I'm sure he just whacked the engine up to maximum power to see if he could get away with gaining some time against the rapid racing car, but obviously that didn't work and he had to come into the pits that extra bit early. 54 seconds remaining, so all of the drivers begin to get ready, come into the commentary box because they are the finishing positions fairly fixed. They will have to do one last lap, as the timer will not expire before the end of this lap. So rapid racing will begin lap 118. And the last lap has been announced by the server, and rapid racing surely now feeling the excitement rise because they're about to take the second victory for their team this season. An amazing display, fighting through the rain in the first hour of this race, and then a dry session for the remaining 2 hours, and it has not been an easy victory for them. Just navigating his way through Sector 1 for the final time, and he will have a victory in his hands. And then Cliff van der Ven, the 55 car of Exiled Motorsport, will be taking their second place position, and by no means an easy task either to get into there. And then the story is the 285 car, of course, currently being driven by their new driver Balazs, and this team has had a hard, tough lesson taught to them today with the changing conditions, and the teams such as the 55 and Rapid Racing have certainly took the bar up a notch in order to be in their current position, but a good recovery drive from them means that they round out the podium for the LMP2 class. Moving over to GT3 though, the Rebellion car, the number 36, and my Rfactor2 has stopped working, which is excellent at this stage of the race. So sadly we will not see the cars come across the line. So I can only apologise for that, but we will go straight into the interviews. So just to confirm, while I've got it up on my screen, the order of finishing is Mikel Nizio in Rapid Racing takes victory here at the 3 Hours of Interlagos. Cliff van der Ven in 55 Exile Motorsport car in second place, and then Balazs in the 285 car in third. Arkadiusz Atriba in the 222 takes fourth place for his team, and then Paul Holt in the 54 car in fifth place. Viktor Sokolov in sixth for the 58 Iceberg Racing car, and then Pedro Bragranca in the number 40 Spirit Sim Racing car. Taking victory in GT3 though is the 36 Rebellion car with Helder Barbosa in charge of that car. Alicio Felito and Team RSI take second place for GT3, and then Claudio Barrera in third with the 77 Martini Racing car. Bad news for the number 7 Poland Sim Racing car, as they do not come into the podium and finish fourth in class. Alexis Clapano in the AMBU Racing car, they finish fifth, and then the 666 Scuderia Shell Ferrari, currently be driven by Samuel Rovida, comes sixth place, oddly enough, considering the car number that they've chosen to take. The rest of the field sadly did not finish, so they will not score any points for this round. But congratulations to the winners, and if we can get them into the waiting room, and so we can conduct the interviews, please. I'm just waiting now for them to join us. So we need the Rapid Racing guys into the waiting room if we can, along with the Rebellion 36 car. So in the box with us now is Mikel, Nizio and Camille. Congratulations, guys. That was your second victory of this season. You must be over the moon.
Yeah, well, our tire strategy wasn't very good. Well, everybody's tire strategy wasn't good, but it worked out very well for us. I think the best out of the title contenders, but yeah, we're gonna keep that title fight till the end of the season, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely put you in a position to challenge for the title going towards the 6 hours of Dubai. But it was just a shame that we couldn't see you cross the line, so I don't know if someone joined the server at the time that I was doing that, but I'll look into that. But sadly it crashed on me. Rfactor2 works in wondrous ways. But you guys had a tough race, of course. The advantage was all yours in the first hour when you was driving in the rain. Tell us how you found that and how you used it to your advantage to get to the front of the grid.
Well, yeah, first hour was quite lucky for us, I think. We didn't risk starting well. I saw the rain before the session change, but I wasn't sure, so I just stick with slicks. And yeah, after all, we had to change it for wets, and these wet tires are quite bad, to be honest. The grip is so low with this, not much higher than on slicks, so yeah, that's bad, I think. And yeah, that 1 hour was a bit of struggle, but I think after all we was the fastest on this, so yeah, that was good. And then Michał took a wheel and took it home.
Yeah, it was definitely thought for a moment near the end of your stint, Michał, that you was going to go very sideways. You got a small sideways moment going into turn 8, which was in the mid sector of sector 2.
Yeah.
I bet that must have been a very scary moment for you.
Yeah, I clipped the curb and I just locked my left rear. Got me spinning on. Yeah, but lucky I just counted it. Didn't really lose a lot of time considering the amount of advantage we had over second place. And yeah, it was a very minor detail to if I just lost the car and lost a few seconds, we had so much advantage.
Well, again, guys, congratulations on your second victory of the season, and I'm sure you'll put on a good show for us in 2 weeks' time when we visit the 6 hours of Dubai. Wish you best of luck going forward, and fingers crossed we can have a fight for the title in Daytona.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting the race. Right.
Take care.
Right, you too.
Okay, so that was Rapid Racing, winners of this round, and doesn't look like we're going to get the Rebellion team in the commentary box with us, because they're not in the waiting room at this moment in time. So that is sad news. We will take a few other interviews though, because we do have time. So we're going to bring in Camille and Arcadius, which are the new entries for this season. Hello guys. So your first showing in the LMP2 category, the number 18 car, which I presume is your guest skin. Tell us how your race went.
Pretty exciting race. The first stint was crazy, absolutely crazy. In the quali, in the rain, I feel very confident, but when the race started and this rain was stronger, it was very hard to drive. Oh, you go off the racing line for half a meter and spin. That was crazy. But then Camille took the car and he did an amazing job. He was driving for about almost 2 hours and you know, he did.
In my opinion, racing is so hard but so exciting because I must drive 2 hours and I must come back when track is so wet and in later is so dry, and I don't know when I must go to the pits and change tires.
Camille was with the wet tires for about an hour, I think, and we were wondering is it gonna to rain or not, and we decided to pit, and it was good decision.
Yeah, that's what I like about endurance racing. You never know what's going to happen in terms of the weather and the track conditions, and it really can spice up the evening, as we found out at the start of the race for this evening. But you guys have had some great battles through the race, on the podium, off the podium, back onto it again, as with the rest of the LMP2 teams. How did you find managing traffic in order to gain time against the other cars?
Yes, it was a new challenge, but we did well. We haven't got any crash with GT3 car. We knew how it is in GT3 when a P2 car is trying to overtake you, so we took it very easy.
Yeah. How do you guys find the Dubai circuit? Have you got much experience there, going 2 weeks ahead?
I was never driving there, but I'm looking forward.
Good to hear. Well, guys, congratulations on getting to the checkered flag. A lot of the cars didn't make it that far, and at least you got a nice chunk of points for your first showing this evening as well. So best of luck going forward, and fingers crossed we can see you at the front rows of the next round.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Take it easy, guys. Okay, so that was the number 18 Lola team, their first showing of the season so far. And we'll take one more interview, which is Pascal Chapon, who's in the waiting room at the moment. So Pascal, welcome to the commentary box. A bad race for Positive Energy. Tell us what happened there.
Yeah, it was a bit difficult for David, because he had a lot of rain to deal with, and he had also a penalty after his first pit stop for changing his front wing. So he lost a couple of front wings, and so I took the wheel about for the last hour, something like that, and so it was beginning to dry, but something like the second lap, trying to overtake a GT3 in the turn 6, I crashed into the barrier and went off and crashed. So I lost also my front wing. So I think we get about 50-50, we're gonna say, David and I on that front. But I took the wheel. I was something like P13 or 14, and when I arrived toward the end of the toward the end of the race, I was looking at my fuel and calculating that I was going to lack something like 10 or 15 liters to go to the end. So I had to make a last pit stop for this, and even like this, I finished P10. So we were nicely astonished about that, but we take it
yeah,
gladly.
Still points on the board for you going towards the next round, which is the 6 out Dubai. So,
sure, we had a lot of problem since the beginning of the series. So if we could finish the season on that kind of races, we will be quite happy overall, I think.
Well, congratulations for making the checkered flag. Sorry
Thank
to
you.
hear that you had a few incidents during the race, but
yeah,
we'll hope that you'll have better luck going towards the rest of the season and the Dubai circuit.
Yeah, sure. Let's hope. Thank you.
All right, thanks, bud. Take it easy.
Goodbye.
And then we do finally have the remaining driver for this evening. That is Nuno Miguel Abreu, the winners of GT3 for this evening in the 36 Rebellion car. Welcome to the commentary box, and just tell us how you're feeling.
Hey again. Well, it's a great feeling to win again, because the last couple of races we had blown engine in the Camaros, so yeah. Now we made it to the end, and it was quite fun.
How did you find the race? Obviously, you guys have taken advantage of being on slicks, as you say, for the first hour. But overall, how was your experience at Interlagos this evening?
Well, Interlagos is a really good track. I like it. But regarding the tires, it was just a bit,
Yeah, it's definitely been spiced up by the weather, hasn't it? I think a lot of the teams can agree with you on that one.
Yeah, it was. Well, maybe it will stop raining, so I just keep them till the end. And when I start losing time, I knew that I think it was Bolat and Vidimari. They were about 2-3 seconds per lap faster. And then the sun comes out, so I was like, whoa, nothing. And I just put my foot down and went for it.
Well, you definitely put on a show, and I must say that those points are definitely needed in the standing. 79 points is your current situation at the moment, so you will be breaking into the 100 barrier to join the other top 3 teams. So by the end of the season, into towards Daytona, provided the next 2 rounds go well for you as well, we may see you back into your original position, which was potentially leading the GT3 category.
Well, for sure we are going to try. We lost lots of points in the last 2 races, and we are going to give our best again and try to make Dubai a great race. And it's just like that. We especially having fun, but we are always trying to win.
Exactly. I'm sure the top running teams all have the same view as yourselves. But best of luck and congratulations again on your victory this evening. It's been great to watch you and follow your car around the circuit of Interlagos. And I can only wish you the best of luck for the 6 hours of Dubai in 2 weeks' time.
Well, thank you.
Alright, take it easy, guys.
Well, good job in the commentary.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go back into. I'm going to go back into the Mercedes now and do a 2-hour stint. So.
Oh, good luck then.
Exactly. All right. Cheers. Take it easy.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
So that was Nuno Miguel Abreu, who have won the GT3 category for this evening, along with his teammates. Much needed points for them in the championship. And I'm sure you'll join me in congratulating all the teams on their checkered flag finishes this evening. So, as I said before I let you all go, and before you all slumber back into bed, or whatever you're doing for this evening, please do check us out for the 12 hours of Sebring. The guys are taking part, as well as myself. I'll be getting in the car in the next hour or so. So please do show us your support and go over to the live streams for our Daytona prototype and GT3 cars, and the links are in the general chat on our Discord. So show us your support, and we are leading in both cars for that event, and I believe that they must be approaching the halfway point soon. So this is signing off for the WCC this evening. We'll see you all in 2 weeks' time for the 6 hours of Dubai. We'll see you then.